Near the coast of Scotland was a small rocky island with atypical geological formations. Its surface was barren and without any features but the occasional seagull which chose to perch on it, and it was so insignificant that it didn't show up on most maps. At that moment, a man with black hair and black eyes stepped on this island that no one had visited for probably more than 1,000 years. Standing on top of the island's highest point, the man observed his surroundings and listened to the sound of the sea. As far as he could see, there was endless azure blue and the warm sea breeze blowing, creating a relaxing atmosphere. The location of the island is good. The coast should be capable of docking small ships. Sea storms are also quite regular here and seem to be centered around the island in the middle. When they occur, Louis rubbed his chin with his hand as he sensed the changing environment around him. With his godly abilities, it was easy to adapt to any environment, and in just a few seconds, he could understand the natural environment of the area by heart. This ability was equivalent to 1,000 years of research and even better. The location is excellent and the natural environment satisfies my requirements. I did not expect to find such a place so easily. Louis took a deep breath and felt the salty smell of the sea breeze. On Earth, Louis was not able to directly extract the power of faith and convert it to divine power. In other words, Louis could not recharge, but now that he was a true god, the speed of conversion was much faster, allowing him to instantly recharge a lot by just returning to San Soliel. Excluding the power of faith, the power of order also exists on Earth. However, compared to San Soliel, the one on Earth is not as powerful as I imagined. Louis fell into deep thought. Based on what he knew, order should have been part of the basic rules of the universe. Chaos also existed, meaning that order and chaos were the fundamental components of everything. No matter what system he was in, he should be able to use the power of order, albeit having a difference in strength. For example, in the world of San Soliel, the power of order encompassed the entire world. As long as he could fully comprehend it, then he would not need faith anymore. When traveling to another world, however, his strength would change according to the world's power of order. After understanding this, Louis relaxed. At the very least, it meant that the power of order was an all-encompassing power and was not only unique to San Soliel. He would not be limited by San Soliel in the future. He would not need to worry about losing power in other systems. But let's run some experiments first. Magic power existed on Earth, but in a dormant state. Louis had already demonstrated this when he caused trouble the last time he was here. However, there were no mages on Earth. Saying that people on Earth had no talent was wrong. There were many people who had exceptionally strong spiritual power. Even on Earth with its inert magic power, they could display extraordinary powers, but these were rare occurrences. If these people were to go to San Soliel, a lot of mages would definitely flock to them to take them on as disciples. They might not become legendary mages, but becoming archmages would be no problem. After all, talent and effort weren't guaranteed to rise to the legendary rank. In the past, Louis had studied the differences between San Soliel and Earth when it comes to magic. Eventually, he came to the conclusion that there was a mysterious fluctuation that allowed people to use spells on San Soliel. But after becoming a true god, Louis realized that those mysterious fluctuations were the origin of magic that was created at the beginning of the world. It was an essence like Shai's darkness and Selûne's light. Earth did not have gods, and as a result, even if magic power existed, no one could create a foundation that would allow them to use it. Thus, they would not form spells. Then, if I could bring a part of San Soliel to Earth, would it be possible for humans on Earth to learn some basic spells on the part of San Soliel? This was the question that Louis wanted answers to. Even if he tore off a large piece of land, Louis would not be able to bring it to Earth. The wormhole that was in his possession was not large enough to accommodate it. That said, Louis had divine equipment. Had the Divine King's crown. The first-generation dragon god had placed a large piece of land of San Soliel and turned it into a large miniature realm inside the divine equipment. Now, the miniature realm inside the crown had become Louis's divine kingdom and had been detached. Louis could also tear a part of his own divine kingdom and place it back inside the crown, borrowing the incredible power of the gods to control time and space. Who would have thought that a small crown was loaded with a huge island of mass? Doing as he pleased, Louis flipped his wrist. An exquisite and beautiful crown inlaid with countless diamonds and jewels appeared in his palm. Louis first did an experiment and entered the crown. In the blink of an eye, the environment had changed. From an island near Scotland, it had changed into the island under his control. There is no problem. The gods are free to come and go as they please. In this piece of my divine kingdom, the world follows the rules of San Solil and not Earth. After ascertaining this, Louis nodded with great satisfaction. He once again came out of the crown and returned to the island near Scotland. Then Louis used his divine power to construct a teleportation formation that was set on a rock on the uninhabited island with divine magic to protect the rock from being destroyed so that Earth's weapons would be ineffective. Then, Louis grabbed one of the seagulls and activated the teleportation formation. In the blink of an eye, he once again entered the crown. He quickly lowered his head to look at the seagull in his hand. The seagull was able to adapt to the rules of the world without any changes. Even the teleportation formation did not have any problems. Since the seagull could stay here, humans should not have any problem. I should try to catch some people to experiment on later. As long as they are all okay, I can start the plan. This place shall become the forefront of contact between the supernatural and mortals. This place will become the holy land of magic in people's minds. The strange magical worlds in Harry Potter flashed in Louis's mind. With Louis's power, he could already display this kind of magical world to the people of Earth and be in complete control of it. Su Wai was an ordinary college student in China, who took Japanese language studies with English as an elective. An ordinary college student was Su Wai's own view of herself. In fact, other people did not see her as an ordinary college student at all. She looked sweet and beautiful with two shallow dimples. From junior high, many bold boys had confessed to her, but due to her strict family coupled with her focus on academics, she never had a boyfriend. Su Wai had been a fan of Japanese anime since she was a child and cosplayed behind her parents' back during high school. This was why she chose to major in Japanese language in college. She even thought about studying in Japan as a graduate student. Her family was considered well-off and wealthy. Although they were not real economic powerhouses, she was considered a rich girl, which was why she was not simple in the eyes of outsiders. Originally, she had already planned out her life. But due to the dramatic changes on Earth, her life's trajectory had changed. Not long ago, from the first supernatural event in the Amazon jungle to the appearance of the giant dragon, everyone's views changed radically. The dragon that was proved to be the incarnation of Satan easily wiped out a team of American soldiers. There was the appearance of the terrifying monster suspected to be Cthulhu's shadow in the Pacific Ocean, the deep ones that attacked Tokyo, the dragon that could bring out sunlight, and even Christ's descent in Kenya and Somalia had all changed the world dynamics. All these caused a huge impact on humanity's trust in science. People even began to doubt whether the natural sciences they had learned since birth were all false. Perhaps Newton and Einstein had all discovered in their later years the limitations of science and that there were phenomena that could never be explained by physical knowledge. So they went to study theology to find God and magic to explain some things. Newton's study of theology had caused many people in the scientific community to laugh at him. It effectively became after-meal gossip, but perhaps Newton had been one step ahead of others. He had perceived the existence of supernatural forces which wasn't necessarily chasing theology. Some people even thought that Newton was simply studying theology in order to reach higher truths. That's why the current government had even firmly requested to open his coffin to see if there was any knowledge related to the supernatural. For now, the world was in a strange position. Many people could not understand it anymore. Some people even argued against the existence of gravity and that Newton would one day jump out of his coffin to tell everyone that gravity was a lie and only God was real. Su Wai's views had also been affected by all these, but unlike those old researchers, she was part of a new generation of teenagers. She could easily accept the changes in the world as she had read many novels and watched a lot of anime. The majority of the young people were excited and looked forward to the appearance of the supernatural, hoping that one day, They could also obtain supernatural powers and become one of those protagonists in fantasy stories. Su-Wai was also a young girl who loved those kinds of things, so she also had fantasies of gaining those incredible abilities. However, Su-Wai was not interested in the legendary characters that appeared so far, whether it was the powerful old man who lived during the Ming dynasty or Christ who had sacrificed himself to save the world. One was a god and the other was akin to a divine messenger. Both of them showed power beyond imagination that modern weapons stood no chance against. But Su-Wai did not like such visible power. What she liked and desired was to be like those wizards that appeared in Buckingham Palace in England. Those wizards wore retro robes embroidered with countless floral prints. Although these wizards looked weak in front of all the people who mastered supernatural power so far, Su-Wai still longed for them. In Su-Wai's opinion, it was almost impossible to become as strong as the old man or Christ. But becoming a wizard seemed possible. From the events at Buckingham Palace, everyone could see that there were a lot of wizards. Even if it was impossible to become almighty, learning convenient magic was the dream of many teenagers. What's more, the airing of Harry Potter movies had reignited fantasies of the wizarding world and the existence of magic. Su-Wai was a fan of Harry Potter like many of her peers. She specifically liked the arrogant Slytherin. Although she, like many people, had once believed that the magical world was real in the past and was simply kept a secret, she was re-evaluating her old beliefs now. I wish I could become a wizard. Inside a luxurious apartment building, Su-Wai sat up from her bed in her pajamas. She walked to the bathroom and checked her appearance in a mirror. Her hair looked messy from sleeping all night. She had just dreamt that she was invited by wizards to a land of magic where she became an apprentice. Unfortunately, she woke up to a mundane reality. So it was just a dream, a broken bar. Su-Wai sighed and lowered her head to brush her teeth. Just then, she saw, from the mirror, a fairy appear on the table behind her. The fairy looked small with at most 20 centimeters. It had transparent butterfly wings and sprinkled flakes of gold powder. Seeing this beautiful yet bizarre creature, Su-Wai was startled and came to her senses. She quickly turned around to look and found that there was no fairy. A trick of the light? Just as Su-Wai was dumbfounded, she noticed an object reflecting light on the table. It was a letter. Su-Wai tensed as she put down her toothbrush and quickly went to the table. She had confirmed that something indeed appeared on the table. After a moment of hesitation, she opened the envelope. The paper made from unknown material was unusually smooth and light to the touch. There was nothing on the paper, but as Su-Wai's eyes fell upon it, beautiful lines of words slowly appeared. Only those who believe in the existence of magic and possess the gift of magic can see this letter. Miss Su-Wai, congratulations on gaining an opportunity to explore the mysteries of magic. Please come to the location marked on the map within 15 days. You will surely be able to experience the mysterious and unimaginable. A. Merlin Order, San Soliel Magic Academy, Archmage Marches. Map. Su-Wai looked on the desk, but couldn't find the map anywhere. Just when she thought that this was someone's prank, the words on the letter disappeared, revealing a detailed map of the sea. Is this really magic? Exclamation mark. At the sight of this incredible event, Su-Wai exclaimed in shock. Her hands trembled as she held the letter and her eyes filled with incredulity and excitement. Su-Wai gulped, pacing anxiously back and forth in place. After a long time, she slapped her forehead and finally calmed down. She quickly opened the internet and began to search for a detailed map of the world to compare with the map in her hand, trying to find the location of the island. Soon, Su-Wai found that the map in the letter pointed to the Scottish Sea. This result made her even more excited. After learning about the incident at Buckingham Palace, Su-Wai gained a more detailed understanding of wizards. This was a group that originally came from the Celtic culture of the Druids, which was a traditional culture of Scotland, Wales, and other places. Now, the location that this magic invitation pointed to happened to be the Scottish Sea, which made it even more credible. With this unbearable excitement, Su-Wai continued to look for the island. It's not there? Su-Wai exclaimed. She found that the island was not recorded on any map of the world. Even if she looked up more detailed maps of Scotland, the map was pointing to the sea and not an island. No, There must be magic that keeps away ordinary people and could not be discovered by them, so humans did not discover that an island actually existed here in the past. Sue gave herself an excuse to believe in the existence of magic. After all, didn't the letter say that only those who believed in magic and possessed magical talent could its contents? She gritted her teeth and quickly dialed her father. Dad, I want to go on a trip to Scotland. As a rich family, Sue often traveled around the world during vacation. Now that it was a holiday, she decided to use this chance to travel to Scotland. As for the dangers, she ignored them all. If she did not have the courage to chase after magic, how could she become a wizard? This was her imagination running wild. A broken bar, United States of America, Florida, inside a dilapidated apartment. You son of a bitch. I asked you to sell it, but you don't want to? You should take this chance to make more money while you're still attractive. If I hadn't raised you and your wild children, you would have been homeless long ago. Broken bar god, you should learn to be grateful. No, I have a job. I have my own job. I can give you all the money I make, and we can live like a real family, really, as long as you stop drinking. A scruffily dressed man took a hard swig of the whiskey in his hand and slapped the woman across the face, causing her to scream in dismay. Bitch, how dare you talk back to me? What can you do with that meager salary of yours? It's not even enough to pay the rent here, let alone raise that wild bastard of yours. The woman being beaten was quite attractive. She was about 27 years old, but due to malnutrition, she looked a bit older than she actually was. She shrunk to a corner and covered her face while crying. Her body was marked at several points with discolored welts, telltale signs of abuse. She used her hand to cover her crying face, but also to prevent the man from seeing the resentment on her face while she cursed him. A doorway opened in a nearby room, and a young boy of 11 or 12 peeked to watch all this. You wild bastard, what are you looking at? Can't you learn anything from seeing your bitch of a mother? The irritable man roared, causing the little boy to quickly close the door in fear. Alex leaned against the door. His eyes were slightly red as he cried silently. His family structure was simple yet complex. Just like many American stories, her mother had taken a bite of the forbidden fruit and had a child out of wedlock with her first boyfriend who later abandoned her. Her choice to carry the child to term estranged her from the rest of her family, and so she had to scrounge about for a living and even ended up homeless for a time. The mother was very beautiful and was born in a middle-class family. She grew up with good education and was even willing to sell her body in the most desperate times to survive. During that period, she met her second man, which was now the little boy's stepfather. The man coveted her beauty. In the beginning, he provided the best care and was even willing to take in both mother and son. The woman, who was swayed by her feelings, thought that she had finally met a good man, but did not expect to fall into hell. The man gradually revealed his bad nature and would cuss at her no matter what. However, the woman, for the sake of the child to have a home and basic education, had been patient and let the man have his way with her. As time went by, she grew old and decrepit. The man's scolding became more intense and he even began to hit her child. But she still did not resist. She just wished for her child to grow up to be able to take care of himself, and she would have no regrets. Until then, she had to hold on no matter how much pain she suffered. Even though she was a young mother because of the mistakes of her youth, her love for her child was unquestionable, and she could be considered a really good mother. Cinema had done much to portray the plights of people in these situations, but it could never truly communicate the despair those who were trapped felt. But Alex knew. He knew that his mother was suffering for his sake. He also wanted to grow up quickly to bring his mother out of this hell or even beat up his stepfather, but he was too young to be a match for the stout man. Huh? What's this? Alex forced himself to turn off the waterworks. He had sworn that he would not shed tears. In his small bedroom, which was a utility room, he saw an exquisite-looking letter. Perhaps because of his family environment, he had no fear and just picked up the letter. He was shocked and delighted to see the contents. Yes, in order to escape from this difficulty, Alex grew up believing in the existence of magic. He wanted to be like a superhero, not for the sake of justice, but to let his mom live a good life. Even if he gradually grew up, This belief did not disappear. Alex did not have any doubt about this letter. For him, he had nothing to lose. Even if this was a prank by someone or some show, it did not matter. Even if he became a laughingstock in front of the TV, he was willing, as long as he had a glimpse of the possibility of escaping this miserable hell with his mother, he would try. But, it seems to be far away from here. Broken Bar. Alex frowned at the map on the letter. He did not know where the place was, but for a child of 11 years old, a few kilometers from home was already a long way. Moreover, he saw that the map was pointing towards the sea. Let alone age, he didn't have the money to reach the island. SHIELD. Alex quickly thought about the government agency that was jokingly named SHIELD. Due to recent supernatural events, major countries had such institutions. These institutions had an open line to the public, hoping that people would report supernatural events that they encountered. For Alex, this agency was his only hope. In Shanghai, in the mysterious department established by the government which was jokingly called the Dragon Group, Gui Bin hastily knocked on the door of his boss office. Team leader, this is the latest situation. After knocking, Gui Bin pushed the door open. With his current position and familiarity with his boss, Gui Bin did not need to remain too polite. Once he entered the door, Gui Bin was flabbergasted. He found that the team leader's office, which was large enough to be a conference room, was holding a meeting that included not only employees of their department but also experts. Gui Bin knew most of them, but several faces were unfamiliar, especially the serious-looking people in military uniforms. When Gui Bin arrived, the team leader hurriedly introduced him, and only then did he know that these people were famous and high-ranking people from the national military and political circles. Nowadays, Gui Bin was also considered part of the military, so he hurriedly saluted and greeted. "You are Gui Bin, right? You can carry on with your matters, don't mind us. We're just here to listen," another leader said amiably. Gui Bin stole a glance at team leader C, and after seeing him gently nod, he also dropped his nervousness. "Team leader, this is the latest information about San Soliel Magic Academy." Gui Bin handed a piece of paper to team leader C and asked in a low voice, "What's going on here? Why are there so many leaders here?" In the past, the upper echelons of the country would be concerned whenever supernatural events happened. They would have the Dragon Group department send detailed information every day. As to whether the top had meetings every day, it was not something that Gui Bin would know. However, witnessing so many leaders arrive at the same time was rare. The supernatural events that happened in the past are too broken bar how to say this, too mythical. That man surnamed Jiang was simply like a Superman. Even Christ has affirmed that he is similar to an angel. According to our country's religion, you know that we have something much like land gods, right? Such a strong man could not be dealt with using the power of state machinery. By our country's upper echelons, we were forced to treat the old man with a gentle attitude in order to gain information about the mysterious. Thanks to your contribution, our country was even able to obtain a few hundred powerful soldiers. Hearing the leader speak in an official tone and say words of encouragement from time to time also made Gui Bin smile. But this time, the event is different. This time, things are related to magic. Our department had also studied the events that happened in Buckingham Palace and confirmed that those wizards and witches that appeared were humans. Although they mastered magic power, scientific weapons could also face them. It is also closer to mortal matters, so it's only natural that the officials would be concerned with this. The leader's voice enlightened Gui Bin. Those supernatural events that happened in the past were simply out of this world. On matters about Cthulhu and Satan, scientists had studied them, but did not dare rely on the results to move forward. After all, countless movies and novels had already proven that believing in such evil creatures would not end well. As for the torch dragon and Christ, they were simply beyond understanding. It could be said that mortals dare not peek into the glory of gods. Even if these gods seemed to be on the side of good, the major countries were cautious enough not to come into contact. But this time, the appearance of magic was something that attracted the attention of the major countries, because the ones who mastered them were mortals. According to the video material from Buckingham Palace, especially some information revealed by the Queen, People understood that those wizards were ordinary people living on Earth. Even the leader of the said group was surprisingly an Englishman born during the Victorian period. These wizards and witches were closer to humans than gods, especially with how modern technology could stand against them. The magic that they mastered should be the foundation of the mystical world. It was these things that could be mastered and controlled by mortals that the governments were interested in. Just like if someone wanted to understand natural sciences, they would not just jump through to study college-level material. That was absolutely irrational. What was more important was to study the basics first, which were elementary-level textbooks. This was also true for the governments. Compared to those incomprehensible gods and monsters they could not understand, they rather take in the most basic knowledge first, which was more important. This was also why many higher-ups had gathered here. Gui Bin thought about things deeper. The emergence of this so-called Sansolial Magic Academy was something countries would need the luck to be able to gather information on. The country which could obtain the basic mystical knowledge first would be able to have a head start in future international situations. From the current situation, those from the British Isles had the best luck because wizards and magic were more in line with their culture. The location of the map was also just close by. Gui Bin and the team leader displayed the latest information. A slightly condescending scholar stood up and slapped the screen. According to the existing information, I was able to conclude that this is definitely not group hysteria, but a real situation, a broken bar. This expert babbled on. Although the people below were listening carefully, they were actually unimpressed. The professor who was explaining in front was a psychologist who was explaining the multiple identical events happening around the world from a psychological point of view. Although there were rumors that supernatural events were hoaxes, this was ultimately a niche perception. Those events that happened in Kenya, Tokyo, and England had already confirmed the existence of these mythical beings. The only thing that made people doubt these events was inaccessibility. This time, the so-called Magic Academy had appeared out of nowhere to make up for this, so these superhumans seemed to have a foundation, convincing the masses that there was a system of power that was different from natural sciences in this world. Under this kind of situation, calling yourself a researcher of psychology and using psychology to explain magic was simply a joke. The expert who gave the lecture may have been stupid, as he could not read the impatience of the people. He kept on talking an elaboration on his theory. Under the eyes of the leader, Gui Bin took a deep breath and walked to the lectern of the conference room. Seeing a professional on stage, the people present stood up straight and had the spirit to listen. Chiefs and colleagues, I will get to the point. Please look at the screen. This is information shared by supernatural research departments from governments all over the world. After sharing information, the number of known recipients of those magic invitation letters totals to 126 cases involving 126 people. Naturally, we believe that there are more people involved. The ones we collected were only from those who took the initiative to contact us. They have one thing in common, and that was that these people were not able to travel to the island marked on the map within 15 days of receipt for various reasons. It was only then that they informed us of these mysterious letters. I believe that the people who received the invitation with the ability to travel to the place marked on the map would never take the initiative to contact us and choose to go on their own, thinking that it was their own strange encounter, a broken bar. Speaking of this, the people present were unable to resist chuckling. On modern Earth, all great powers had united to understand the unknown, so there were almost no secrets to be kept. However, according to experts of statistical probability, there should not be too many people, so we do not need to care about them. What we need to do now is to strictly monitor the sea area where the event will happen, and we can know their identity by asking and investigating the people who are known to have received the invitation. We found that there was no regularity in the invitations. In all countries and regions around the world, all kinds of people received it. It's said that the only thing in common between these people was their belief in the existence of magic, along with the so-called magic talent. From the term magic talent, we can confirm that not everyone can master those mysterious powers, and only specific people could do so. Saying so, All the people present had heavy expressions. These 100 or so people having so-called magic talent could be considered lucky. Would they be able to master powerful magical abilities? Would they gradually break away from being mortals? If these people could really master mysterious skills, what kind of impact would it have on Earth's society? Would the people of Earth be divided into hierarchies? These were all unknowns at the moment. Over the past few years, as major supernatural events shook the world and came to the fore of the news, other more sporadic and small-scale events also occurred. These lay beyond the purview of the common citizen and were instead intensely studied by governments and their departments. And though these occurrences yielded some data, they did little but confuse the analysts further. Some occultists theorized that mysterious forces could not contact mortals, but this was a flawed assumption considering all that had happened in recent years. Those few supernatural events involving mortals were so rare that they could not even create any statistics and could only be discussed anecdotally. This case, that of the Magic Academy, however, was different. There were more than 100 cases and all them involved ordinary people, from students to office workers. This event caught the world's government's attention. Every government began to believe that ordinary people could touch upon mysterious powers. According to the information of the invitations received by people all over the world, we have found that the language used in these letters was all in accordance with their readers' preference. There were even some extremely rare indigenous languages. From the text of the invitation, it seemed that only one person was writing them, but experts have discussed together and agreed that the text on the invitations was like fonts on computers. Moreover, they should be written with magic and not handwritten. Gui Bin had become calmer and calmer as he faced the higher-ups. Even with so many leaders in front of him, he still spoke steadily. No matter who was listening, they all felt that Gui Bin was quite good. In just a few months, this once dispensable person had become someone who had grasped some power. San Solil Magic Academy. From the name, San Solil should be the name of the place, but the world's best geographers, historians, religious scholars, and theologians have checked all kinds of legends and histories, but have yet to find anything related to San Solil at all. So I suspect that this place did not appear on Earth, or perhaps it is not even on Earth. Hearing Gui Bin's words, all of them secretly nodded. These gods, demons, and other terrifying existences were being researched by various countries. They all felt that this tiny planet called Earth would not be able to withstand their great power, and had long suspected that these existences lived in places like heaven, hell, and others. They believed that they were either higher dimensional planes or other planets of the universe. With the massive emergence of supernatural events, some countries could no longer hide private information. Even the United States had come up with some items that were more than tens of thousands of years old that proved that aliens existed somewhere in the universe and had visited Earth. Moreover, the black hole of galaxy M87, which was the first photographed by humans, had a mass of 6.5 billion times that of the Sun. Such a comparison showed that human beings were really worthless dust in the entire universe. Everyone should understand the words a school of magic. It should refer to a school that taught students magic. I don't know if any one of you has read Harry Potter's Hogwarts School of Magic, but experts believe that this novel should be a good representative of what it is. Gui Bin was afraid that these old people did not know what it was, so he even took out some movie clips to explain it in a brief manner. England also sent people to ask J.K. Rowling about this, but she responded that she created this novel purely by inspiration. We have reason to suspect that perhaps these inspirations are not from the author, but by the influence of wizards, and that she was just a lucky person. The Order of Merlin and Archmage Marches on the invitation should refer to the same ones who appeared in Buckingham to the rescue of Queen Elizabeth. The head wizard was named Marches, and he claimed to be from the Victorian period. At that time, a fairy gave the British Princess Charlotte a golden apple, and Archmage Marches had said that he would take the princess as an apprentice. This little princess had also received an invitation this time. Gui Bin's words fell, and the people listening to him were stirred and began discussing with each other. Princess Charlotte was the one who had the highest status among those who received the invitation. They wondered what impact this had on England, especially once the princess truly learned magical spells. However, this matter was nothing to do with them, so they did not care too much. "Did Anya Brokenbar in our army receive an invitation?" a chief suddenly asked. But several bigwigs shook their heads. "Our policy is atheism." As the words fell, the chief felt a little embarrassed, because the invitation indicated that it was only for people who believed in the existence of magic. Seeing everyone finish chatting, Gui Bin continued, "Please see This is the island shown on the map of the invitation. It is located to the west of the Scottish Sea. These are the pictures taken by our satellite." Gui Bin put dozens of diagrams of the island in succession, and each one was extremely detailed. "This island is an uninhabited island and does not occupy a large area. It doesn't even have a name, nor does it appear on any map, but it is mentioned in some nautical texts. There is nothing on the island, but at certain times of the year fierce storms would appear to surround the island. In the past, no one thought there was anything wrong with this phenomenon, but now, it looks more likely that those storms were created by magicians to protect the island." The meeting lasted all afternoon. In the face of unknown power, everyone was being cautious for fear of making the slightest mistake. The leaders continued their discussion until some gave the final instruction. "We should do a good job of communicating closely with the people who received the invitations. Make sure that they are safe and make them believe that the motherland will stand behind them and support them. We also need to safely deliver these people to the island." Leaders at all levels should communicate well. Do not use coercion and try to instill a sense of honor in the country. Don't ask them to make a lot of contributions, just ask that we don't lag behind other countries. The safety of the people's lives and property is the most important thing. At the same moment, the governments of the world began more intensive research and study. Somewhere in the seas northwest of Scotland, there was a lot of activity. After communicating with the Scottish government, the governments all over the world dispatched agents to send those people who had received invitations here, ready to send them out to sea toward the mysterious island before the arrival of the 15th day. The four directions, above and below, were called the spatial axes, while the past, present, and future were called the time axes. Louis, who held the divine authority of time, was equivalent to holding the time axis. Although time was of little significance to the immortal gods, it was something that mortals could never grasp or perceive in their entire lifetime. Jupiter, about 700 million kilometers away from Earth, was the largest planet in the solar system. Its mass was equal to 2.5 times the combined mass of the other planets in the solar system, and it was a gas planet. To reach Jupiter from Earth, with the level of Earth's technology, required a few years, even for light probes. However, a magic pattern suddenly appeared in the orbit of Jupiter. It was a door, and what walked out from it was a man. With his hands behind his back, he stood in the cosmic void and gazed with an arrogant and indifferent look at the gas giant. The man's size was less than a drop in the ocean compared to Jupiter's size, but even so, this huge planet appeared rather small in front of the man's presence. It wasn't the man looking at Jupiter, but Jupiter looking at the man. Because this man was not a mortal, but a true god. After all, it's just a sphere made of hydrogen, helium, and other basic elements. There's no mystery at all. The one who appeared was naturally Louis. He stood in the void of the universe but was strangely able to make a sound. With his inverted pupils, he captured the planet's entirety. But being big also has its advantages. For a faith-based god, destroying such a huge sphere would take a lot of divine power and isn't really worth it. Once I reach the level of the ancient gods of the past, let alone annihilating a planet, annihilating a galaxy wouldn't be a problem. Louis shook his head. San Soleil's current system ultimately had its limits. On the other hand, science and magic also had their limits. For example, at the level of technology that the Terran civilization possessed, destroying plants was as simple as eating. This wasn't impossible for the gods, but the consumption required was too high. On the other hand, reaching extreme celestial bodies like neutron stars and black holes would require the Terran civilization's significant technological means, but gods didn't need anything. Gods had the basic ability to survive in all environments. Neutron stars were akin to a kind of environment. No matter how extreme it was, everything was the same in the eyes of God. Even the concept of density and mass didn't have much of an effect on them. Louis walked in the endless space. He treated the gas giant as nothing. If he was still a demigod, he wouldn't have been able to do this, but the difference between a demigod and a true god was simply that big. Jupiter had 79 moons, and powerful mages in the world of San Soliel were able to cross realms, so distance was not a problem as long as there were coordinates. With just a single step, Louis once again teleported and circled the entire planet once. From the 79 moons of Jupiter, Louis chose the most suitable one. Well, this is a good moon. Louis brightened up and looked at one of Jupiter's moons as if he were surveying a small fruit. This moon was more than 10 kilometers and less than 20 kilometers in diameter. Louis did not know its name, but he guessed that it should be a bit bigger than the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. If this thing hit Earth, then it could definitely create a crater that was more than 200 kilometers in size. It could not destroy Earth, but it could destroy its ecology and cause all life to go extinct. He estimated that the blast of the meteor would reach the strength of billions of tons of TNT or more. The sharp increase in temperature was nothing to a god, but it was definitely a disaster for mortals. For true gods, he had the means to destroy a planet without having to forcibly wipe out a planet. Let me transform you and send you to Earth. Louis looked with satisfaction at the giant rock floating in the universe. In a flash, he landed on the moon and constructed a spell with the power of God to transform it into the form he wanted. Divine power was absolutely mighty and incredible. It was not difficult to free a satellite from Jupiter's gravity, even if it was made to fly 7 billion kilometers across the universe in a way that did not conform to the laws of physics. There was no mystery involving moving objects from long distances. Only the ability to cross the walls between dimensions was incredible. The space-time wormholes that could allow one to cross dimensions could be called the pinnacle of the Terran civilization's technology. A broken bar. While Louis was getting ready for the next show and was transforming Jupiter's moon, a port on the northwest coast had been set off limits by the government since 10 days ago. No journalist could find out what was happening no matter how much they poked around. However, according to the recent frequency of supernatural events, many people began to think that this was related to supernatural events. This was closely discussed on the internet and people were clamoring for answers, but they could only make speculations. Before the government informed the people, the netizens could only rely on nonsense to make predictions. At the mouth of the port, military vehicles came and went. They transported ordinary people who had received invitations from various countries to the Scottish port. According to the discussion of the governments, they finally decided to let the lucky people from all over the world on a boat and have them be escorted by professional soldiers, to send them to the mysterious island. In the beginning, people suggested planes, but this was ultimately rejected, as the governments thought that it was impossible to hide their actions from the eyes of the wizards, so the government did not want to cover it up but just hide it from the people for the time being. In the end, the choice was made to transport by sea. A bus parked in the heavily guarded port. Some staff and armed police officers stepped out of the bus, followed by ordinary people with expectant and nervous faces. They looked around the scene, which was like a military base. Several staff members whispered to them to relax. Many countries had already arrived one after another with their national flags on their vehicles. The mysteries of the world might finally be unveiled in front of ordinary mortals through this event. Gui Bin got off the bus. As one of the representatives of China, he had personally led the Chinese people invited by the School of Magic to Scotland. Yo, Gui-san. A middle-aged man in a suit and tie with a moustache brightened up when he saw Gui Bin and quickly came over. Gui Bin heard the familiar Japanese accent and turned to look at the person addressing him. Squinting, he made out the walking figure of Oshima, the head of supernatural events in Japan. Since they had knowledge that supernatural forces were influenced by culture, the secret departments of 3 countries, namely China, Japan, and South Korea, had been in close contact with each other. They often met to report on work, resulting in everyone knowing the members of the other countries' secret departments. However, China and Japan had been more deeply involved due to the emergence of supernatural events from both countries. South Korea was in a more awkward position. There was also the United States of America's garrison that China and Japan treat in a vague manner. The Indian peninsula had also been affected by this. Asian culture was deeply influenced by Buddhism, but who would have thought that the origin of Buddhism did not have many Buddhists? Instead, it was a country that believed mainly in Hinduism. As a result, it was more isolated from the surrounding countries. Oshima-kun, long time no see. Seeing the visitor, Gui Bin, who had gained enough experience, hurriedly went over with a smile and shook hands eagerly. In the past, if they could remove the USA's influence over Japan, China would be more than satisfied. This was something previously unimaginable for the Chinese government. But who would have thought that many things were solved with the emergence of supernatural beings? Are these the people who received the invitation letter from your country? Gui Bin saw the people gathering behind Oshima. There was a young high school girl, an office worker with tired eyes, some excited college teenagers, and so on and so forth. Their nervous yet expectant expressions were just like the many ordinary people who came here. Yes, Gui-san. These are the people chosen by fate in our country. They will carry the heavy responsibility and make their contribution to the world. Looking at Oshima's excited chanting, the corner of Gui Bin's mouth twitched as he thought the Japanese people had a great imagination. It was said that their emperor was so shaken by the prevalence of supernatural events that he had brought up the idea of abdicating to the crown prince. Thinking like this, Gui Bin also looked at the people on his side. Because of China's population problems, China was able to obtain slightly more invitations in this random selection, but only slightly more, and without any overwhelming advantage. These ordinary people who were brought in were only those who took the initiative to contact the Dragon Group. There were also rich people like Su Wai who came to Scotland alone and ended up being a court. Recently, the Scottish authorities were strictly controlling the seas, so even the rich people who came alone could not rent a boat to go to the mysterious island by themselves. In the end, they had to take the initiative to report and join the group. This was equivalent to a self-drip turning into a group tour. Gui Bin and Oshima were casually chatting together, mainly about supernatural events. Then their eyes looked at another place where many black and white people were gathering. That's the head of the European and American countries over there, right? Gui Bin asked. Yeah, the one over there is the head of SHIELD. I met him before in Tokyo. The other one should be the chief of England's military intelligence department. I'm not sure of their name, but the agents are apparently called by code names just like in James Bond movies. Oshima, who had been a junior on the American side, had contact with all these people in the past, so he explained their backgrounds to Gui Bin. That cute little girl is Princess Charlotte of England's royal family. It is said that Archmage Marches was going to take her as a disciple after eating the golden apple. I'm sure she will receive special treatment. Oshima gazed at the cute blonde girl and said enviously, towards grasping magic and other mysterious powers, whether young or old. Everyone had such fantasies before. In Oshima's opinion, Princess Charlotte, who was born a royal princess and also gained the approval of an archmage, was simply as lucky as those protagonists in novels. Gui Bin patted Oshima's shoulder and did not say anything as he was in fact also quite envious. But how come I don't see many Arabs? Gui Bin scanned around the area and only found that there were surprisingly only a few Arabs here. It was surprising that the Muslim countries did not send anyone. The people of those countries think that magic is blasphemy to their faith. So people who went to seek help from the state were rejected. Only a few people who had both the capabilities and a strong belief in magic managed to make it here. Oshima and Gui Bin looked at each other and let out a snicker. Even though China and Japan were not culturally compatible with magic but faced with the so-called wizards and witches, their respective governments still expressed strong support. In this day and age, whoever could master mystical knowledge first would gain a head start. Let alone their own culture, as long as they could encounter an opportunity, no one would give up. They're about to gather. Let's go over. At this time, An announcement sounded on the pier as a ship was docking. Oshima and Guibin returned to their respective gathering places and had a comforting talk with those who were chosen before they boarded the ship in order. There were less than 200 people on board, with men and women and children and adults, but overall, there were no people over 25 years of age, and Princess Charlotte, who was not even 1 year old, was the youngest. From the age distribution alone, researchers concluded that perhaps the age limit for learning magic was around 25 years old. A broken bar. The ship gradually left the dock, and those on board, in addition to those who received invitations, were soldiers from various countries. All the selected people were holding envelopes in their hands while whispering words and exchanging words to ease their nervousness. After the ship left, the personnel from various countries did not remain idle. They quickly mobilized satellite imaging to watch that patch of sea. They could see one ship approaching the mysterious island that wasn't really big. The island was on the high seas, and as the ships approached, everyone was tense. Suddenly someone shouted in panic, "Not good." Just now the Weather Bureau sent a message. A storm is about to set in. A storm? How could this happen? The Weather Bureau had said that today would be calm. Our systems are extremely accurate. How could this be happening? The storm this time is very big, and its formation speed was beyond imagination. All of the people on that ship are in danger. We should have them come back quickly. Someone shouted. No. We can't let them come back. Heading to the island is the first priority. A broken bar. Just as the officials were arguing, the ship in the sea moved towards the frightening waves. The sky was covered with dense dark clouds and lightning and thunder. Huge waves would strike the ship, making it seem as if it was about to capsize at any moment. The gale blew to wet the deck as the modern steel ship looked so powerless in front of nature. Many people in the cabin cried out, and some began to vomit. Faced with this apocalyptic scenery, even the soldiers went pale, let alone ordinary civilians. Could this be a test to travel to that island? As people who were invited to the island, they believed in the existence of magic. Someone immediately raised this idea, which was quickly accepted by the majority. Thus, no matter how big the waves were or how much the boat swayed, no one raised the idea of going back, and everyone tried to hold on. Why is the storm here so strange? It's forming far too fast. The captain's room was busy. In the face of such frightening waves, the ship's crew paled. Look, everyone. What is that? Suddenly, a soldier exclaimed. He pointed to the captain's room's glass window. In that storm, under the large fury of the waves, a large wooden ship appeared like a ghost in the darkness of the rainstorm. No matter how horrible the fury of the waves and wind were, they could not reach it at all. All forces of nature passed by it, as if a sea monster lay in the mists. That a broken bar. Is that ship really made of wood? In this kind of terrifying storm, any wooden ship would definitely be instantly torn apart, but that ship is unharmed. It's a broken bar. It's not walking on water, but floating in the air. No, take a look closely. Those winds and waves directly passed through the ship. It's not floating in the air at all, but simply it doesn't exist in this world. A ghost ship, a void ship, and many other conjectures appeared in the minds of the people. With the approach of the ship, the crowd could see that a few people wearing mage robes stood on the deck of the ship. The storm passed through the ghost ship without leaving any trace on it. As this vessel came closer, the people on the motorized boat were surprised to see the churning waves and buffeting winds settle. Look, everyone. The words on the hull and mast of the ship. Someone excitedly pointed his finger at the ghost ship and looked at the countless magic patterns that emerged on its surface. The crew members who were on the ship at the moment recorded everything that was happening and transmitted it back to their governments. Is this the power of magic? It actually made the storm disappear. A broken bar. The crowd talked over each other as they watched the approaching ghost ship in shock. From an incorporeal state, it began to solidify bit by bit. With the ghost ship at the center, a calm zone with a diameter of 100 meters was formed, surrounded by torrential rains and wind. Back in Scotland, numerous countries' staff did not leave even after they were instructed to do so. They set up a temporary command, taking in everything that was happening ahead. This ship is not sailing in reality. Could it be that it is sailing in a different world and could shift between realities? Quick, hurry up. Capture the image and record all the words on the ship. Go check the researchers to see if there is any record of these words. A broken bar. A broken bar. The logistics department, composed of agents from various countries, was busy. Above the sea, the ghost ship approached the modern ship. While the soldiers and crew members were tense, a man on that ship wearing retro robes spoke with a low hoarse voice. Are these the chosen few of this selection? HMPH, there are 7 billion modern humans, but the qualified ones are surprisingly few. Humans have really degenerated. The wizard's words were filled with mockery, but in this storm, the voice passed through everyone's ears. No one dared to reply to his words. The sorcerer just stood there but brought a sense of trembling fear that made people tremble. Although some people's faces reddened and wanted to say that modern humans were healthier and more knowledgeable, when they thought about the pollution caused by modern society, they associated it with the purity of the natural environment in ancient times. Perhaps this was the reason why modern humans had less and less magical talent. HMPH, forget it. This many people should be enough. If it were up to me, I wouldn't even look for apprentices among the humans in this era. You have forgotten the power of magic, but I cannot argue against Lord March's decision. Be grateful, future apprentices, because of Lord March's kindness, I will give you the opportunity. Remember, my name is Barry, and I will be your teacher in the future. The sorcerer named Barry introduced himself with great pride. He waved his hand. Under the crowd's alarm, a long rainbow bridge formed from the ghost ship to the deck of the steel giant. Hurry up, I don't have time to waste here. Under the impatient urging of the wizard, someone carefully stepped on the bridge of light. A light appeared that looked like an elevator, and in the blink of an eye, the people on it were transported to the ghost ship. The soldiers on the ship did not dare speak but watched with trepidation as the ordinary people crossed the rainbow bridge and entered the ghost ship under the urging of the wizard. Those with invitations in their hands were also silent. Perhaps the sorcerer's grumpy impression made them more fearful. Meanwhile, the soldiers on the ship watched them all aboard the ghost vessel. Once the last person boarded the spectral boat, it floated up and disappeared into the void. When the ghost ship disappeared, the storm reappeared. The huge steel ship forged by modern technology tumbled once again, and only then did the soldiers come back to their senses. They all looked at each other with shock and fear. As elite soldiers sent by various countries to protect the ordinary people, they were actually suppressed into fear with just a few words from the wizard. Perhaps this was the power of magic. The commanding officer looked indifferently at the picture shown on the screen. Seeing their excellent soldiers were scared to move by the aura of the wizard, everyone looked at each other in silence. An officer from the United States of America lightly said, "Order the soldiers back. We know far too little about magic to risk anything now." Humans always feared the unknown. This was human nature. While the secrets of magic remain a mystery, even the United States of America, the world's #1 power, would also express caution towards the power of magic. This was because the destructive power shown by supernatural events was too terrifying. A broken bar. A broken bar. The American Homeland Defense Agency, jokingly called ASHIELD, was located in Washington and formed by members of the FBI, CIA, and many other departments and elite soldiers together. It was one of the largest agencies formed among major countries and was led by a military general. Director, there is new information. A broken bar. The headquarters was a gathering of the latest high-tech equipment and researchers as it did its best to conduct research on supernatural powers. At this moment, the sound of rushing footsteps echoed through the corridor. An agent walked into the office and saluted. What happened? An old man in military uniform was sitting on the chair with a solemn appearance. His back was straight and his old age wasn't visible at all. This person was none other than the head of this institution, General Robertson. This is the information we were tasked to obtain. It contains personal data of the people from our country who are invited to go to the School of Magic as well as their family situations in detail. The agent quickly put a report in front of the general and spoke very quickly. This teenager called Alex has a complicated family situation. His stepfather suddenly died this morning. His appearance after death was unusually horrible. It was as though he had been twisted by some mysterious power. General Robertson picked up the information sheet and briefly looked at the teenager named Alex. He felt a twinge of sympathy for the child due to his own experiences in his younger years. His scalp numbed after taking a closer look at the bizarre photo. In it, he saw a man with a terrified expression and a hideous face. The skin of the man's body was dehydrated and almost cracked. There were also strange malignant tumors that made him look like a monster that had crawled out from hell. This manner of death was definitely not normal and was definitely not caused by a virus. Based on the appearance of supernatural events, anyone would imagine that he had been cursed by witchcraft. Thinking about the deep ones that appeared in Tokyo, General Robertson immediately asked, "I can understand Alex's childhood, but what exactly is the case? With his stepfather's death, could it be that he became a wizard to curse the stepfather that he resented?" "General, the information from Scotland said that the ship had just departed, so Alex shouldn't have mastered such things yet. From our investigation of the corpse and our interviews with his mother, we were able to piece together Alex's family situation. Alex's mother joined a Satanist cult because she resented the man for his abuse. The cult in question has not done anything out of the ordinary and only conducted some masses, so we turned a blind eye to them. Perhaps it was really related to supernatural powers. This lady is now a bit abnormal. After talking with our psychologists, she said that she often cursed her husband to turn into a monster and die. She did this to vent her pain, but did not expect that her husband would really pass." The staff answered the leader's question with clear dictation. General Robertson frowned and said word by word, "Are you trying to say that this cult may be related to supernatural forces, especially related to those evil gods?" "Yes, General." The doctor who performed an autopsy on the dead man said that there was nothing medically wrong with the body, which meant that his death could only be related to the supernatural, the agent said with certainty. Robertson pondered for a moment and thought about the information he obtained about Japan. It was said that the Deep Ones appeared when a group of evil god worshippers performed strange rituals. This time, the cult seemed similar to what had happened in Japan. As the Director of Homeland Security, General Robertson's biggest task was to protect the country of the United States of America. "I understand. I'm going to see His Excellency the President and Sir Secretary of Defense. Since we have records of this cult, doesn't that mean that they are under our control?" "That's right, General. I will have the Marines cooperate with you. Make sure to take down the cult personnel in one fell swoop. We need to leave as many as possible alive and find out if this cult is really related to supernatural forces or not. If it is, seal the file with the highest level of secrecy. It doesn't matter if they are in contact with evil gods or whatever god, as long as they could let us have supernatural powers, we have to study them." Robertson vaguely felt that something was wrong. His instincts were telling him not to touch these evil gods, but ever since this department was established, it hadn't gained any achievements. Most of the cases they had found were related to scammers and liars. The Senate and House of Representatives were dissatisfied with him. In order to obtain more knowledge about mysterious powers and show his merit, he was willing to take a chance. "Yes, General. There are 9 chief sins committed by the followers of Satan: stupidity, conceit, egoism, self-deception, conformity, lack of position, rejecting origins, superfluous pride, and aesthetic defects. Remember that stupidity is the first of the 9 sins, and foolish believers are not accepted by our Lord. I am Ravi, the spokesman of Satan on earth. Obey me as though you were listening to the oracle of the Lord, and kneel under this dark Bible. To those who make you angry, kill them and curse them. Do not believe the foolish words of Christ. All good is just false hypocrisy. You feel the pain of the world, and you used to believe in that God, but what did you get? Nothing. That so-called God did not save you. But Satan will save you. Speak your desires, as long as you follow the 11 commandments. As long as you do not commit the 9 deadly sins, you will become the favored ones of Satan and will enter hell with the souls who have harmed us. We will forever live in hell, and they will enjoy watching them suffer therein. We do not need to fear hell, for we are its masters. In an abandoned factory in Florida, United States of America, A black mass was being held. Many people, who wore floor-length black robes, had gathered together inside the pitch-black abandoned factory. They only set up faint candlelights to set up a mysterious atmosphere. The moon in the sky seemed to have a faint bloody color, and on a stage inside the factory, a man with an unchanging expression held a black-colored book in his hand. He stood against the countless candlelight and preached about Satan and his true rulership. The block cover of the book seemed to have a faint luster with a blood-colored pentagram engraved on it. In the middle of the pentagram was a goat's head that shook with an eerie vitality. Satan represents the real existence of physical life, not a spiritual hypocritical fantasy. Satan represents the purest wisdom, not self-deceiving speculation. Satan represents revenge, not tolerance. Satan stands for ignoring the original 7 sins because they bring physical, spiritual, and emotional satisfaction. A broken bar, be satisfied with me. Under the watch of this dark Bible, with your blood and souls, let us welcome the advent of the Demon King. The man named Ravi stood at the top of the platform. At his feet were a crowd of believers, who were fully devoted to Satan. These people were fallen people who have suffered countless pains in life. They, who did not receive God's salvation, were liberated in their minds and bodies by Satan and immersed in physical, spiritual, and emotional satisfactions to forget the pain of life. The vast majority of these believers choose spirituality because of the misery of real life. Ravi's expression was distorted. His face changed from frenzy to fear and back again. One hand was about to open the dark Bible in his hand, but the other was clinging to the spine of the book, preventing him from opening it. Now, Ravi seemed like he had a split personality disorder, with the 2 personalities fighting to gain control of the body. Just when Ravi was about to open the book, a loud boom burst as the roof of the abandoned factory shattered. A team of heavily armed soldiers fell from the sky. They aimed their muzzles at the people and shot below. The rubber bullets they fired bounced off concrete and, occasionally smacking into an unlucky congregant. The gathering of believers had fallen into chaos as people wailed and screamed. Under the attack of rubber bullets, the people fell like wheat. They held their bodies and cried out in pain. Anton Ravi, don't move. Hands in the air and put that book down. A team of soldiers rushed into the abandoned factory. With the help of tear gas, they had incapacitated the Satanists in less than 5 minutes. Then 20 Marines surrounded Ravi with their guns pointed at him. Police, you've finally come here. Broken bar, why are you so late? Quickly take this book away from my hands. It is too evil. I cannot stand it anymore. Please quickly take it away. The cult leader who was giving a speech before this saw the soldiers fall from the sky. He was neither afraid nor was he willing to become a sacrifice for the faith. He only cried bitterly there, and the words that came out of his mouth were even more surprising. Ravi, put down the book in your hands and raise your own hands. The dark Bible flowed with pitch-black streams of light. The demonic goat head in the middle of the pentagram let out a laugh. Its scarlet eyes emitted a terrifying aura that even the soldiers, who were just ordinary people, could tell that this was an item that had mysterious powers, but it was very evil. Since it was related to Satan, how could it be normal? I can't let go. Please. You guys have to come and take it away. I'm going crazy. I'm going to die. I don't want to fall into hell. You are. The cult leader suddenly cried out like a child. This bizarre scene caused the soldiers present to shudder. A broken bar. I see so many lambs have gathered to be slaughtered. The smell of decay on you is disgusting. Come and I shall liberate you all. I will let you know that morality is the bondage of the human ego. The so-called 7 original sins are the true cradles of human progress. Come, believe and Satan, merge into this dark Bible, and sink with me into hell to meet our Lord Satan. Suddenly, the cult leader named Ravi drastically changed in demeanor. He turned fanatical and evil as he screamed and prepared to open the book in his hand. A quick look at short/mshaux will leave you more fulfilled. Fire. As he was about to flip the first page, the order to shoot arrived. There was a series of powerful bangs echoing through the factory's dusty air. Unlike the rubber ammo that was previously fired, These were proper rounds. Blood bloomed as Ravi's dead body collapsed on the ground. The dark Bible fell into his blood and became even more sinister. "Take the book along with these cultists and let's get out of here." A soldier in a protective suit carefully stepped forward and picked up the evil-looking book with tongs and enclosed it in a box. White House, Washington, United States of America. Homeland Security Director General Robertson pushed to have an urgent meeting with the President and the Secretary of Defense. Director Robertson, I am very dissatisfied with your recent work. You should know what I mean when I look at you like this. The President tapped his fingers on the table. He had never been a daring president due to his former background as a shrewd businessman. I have satisfied enough of your requirements. When you wanted money, I lobbied hard for the State Budget Committee to give you funds. When you wanted soldiers, I risked offending the CIA and FBI, offering to have them send you elite agents. When you wanted research institutions, I had let you use one of the best research institutes in the United States. But General, look at what you gave me in return. Nothing. You are wasting taxpayer dollars. If this continues, even I can't bail you out in the face of pressure from both houses. The President spat. General Robertson stood in front of the President. He stood straight, but his forehead was drenched in sweat. He was someone who had once sought to retire but chose to foray once more into politics. He had lobbied for a position as Director of Homeland Security since it involved supernatural events. But with the enviable position came a lot of pressure. If he didn't provide results, he would be forced to step down. Thinking like this, Robertson hurriedly stepped forward and respectfully handed the data. Your Excellency, this is a book collected from a cult that we have recently destroyed. This book is a true supernatural item that contains incredible power. The President picked up the information and read it without comment. The number of liars had been on the rise recently, and they made up the vast majority of reported supernatural events. As a result, the President had also turned from initial excitement into indifferent numbness. The President briefly flipped through the information inside and said, with uncertainty, "Are the reports here all true?" He originally thought that his director had submitted a false report to save his position. How could there be any mysterious items from a small cult that could easily be eliminated by a group of Marines? This was completely different from the supernatural events shown before. It must be known that the supernatural events in Tokyo and Kenya were severe to the extent that even a carrier fleet could not win, let alone a team of Marines. The Dark Bible? Why does it feel like I have heard this somewhere? The President meditated on it before finally drifting off and saying, "Oh, I remember." The last president had captured a terrorist leader. After searching the previous files, I think I saw these words, a broken bar. Could it be that the terrorists had contact with supernatural forces at that time? Speaking of which, the President's voice tensed up, and he began to suspect that the once world-renowned terrorist was related to supernatural forces. His fingers subconsciously reached for his phone. The Minister of Defense beside the President grabbed his wrist and whispered, "Your Excellency, the Dark Bible in that computer is just an animation from Japan, different from the one in the report. Take a look. The report says that this scripture is also called the Satanic Bible. TL. Only people of culture know what animation this is. The Satanic Bible broken bar." Hearing this, the President looked aghast. He made a prayer with his eyes closed and then sincerely said, "Since meeting Christ, I have become a devout believer." The President wasn't really sure whether he was sincerely praying or not. After a bit of hesitation, he asked Robertson, "This Satanic Bible looks very evil. Can we take it out of the United States of America when performing research on it?" Mr. President, I don't think such an important item should be taken out of the country, Robertson and Johnson quickly advised. After a moment of hesitation, the President nodded and said, "You guys are right. This is the first item we obtained related to supernatural abilities. It's better to not make any mistakes, but try to research this item in a sparsely populated area. Remember to inform me if you find anything from your research." The President said with some expectation. Towards these supernatural powers, an old man like him was naturally interested. Now that he was the President, it was necessary to get into more contacts. "Yes, Mr. President." A broken bar. In the research facility somewhere under the desert of the United States, General Robertson walked through a corridor with a gloomy face. "How is the research on the Satanic Bible going?" "Reporting. We have transferred a felon and exposed him to the book." A broken bar here. Broken bar. He immediately turned strange. Just like cult leader Ravi mentioned, after being exposed to the book, he suddenly became schizophrenic. "Be more specific." "This felon has a violent personality. Even when we brought him into this facility, he had an indifferent attitude and often insulted the guards, but after we let him touch the book, he chanted scriptures fervently in one moment and fearfully told us to take the book away in the next." The researcher took Robertson into a surveillance room. He pulled the monitor of what was happening to the prisoner. The surveillance showed that the prisoner was currently on his knees, chanting something. In the next moment, he tapped on the door frantically, screaming in terror to be let out. "What language is he speaking?" "It doesn't seem to belong to any of the known languages." "We've asked linguists and they all said that they had never heard of it before. They couldn't translate it because it lacked comparisons." The researcher clenched his fist and continued, "Since the book is called the Satanic Bible, and the test subject gives off an evil air when he speaks it, it might be the language of hell." This researcher did not know that his guess was very accurate because anyone from San Solil would have been able to tell him that the language that the prisoner was speaking was abyssal. General Robertson nodded without saying anything else. After a moment of contemplation, he asked, "How is research going with the book?" "After seeing what happened with the prisoner, no one dared to touch the book, so we are operating remotely through fiberglass. According to our research, this book is made from unknown animal skin. After we cut off a corner of the book or cut the sheep's head on the cover of the book, the head made a miserable sound. We concluded that this book should be a living creature." The researcher played the video and said with fear in his voice. He thought about the terrifying scream that still lingered in his heart. "Have you investigated its origins?" Our people investigated Ravi's life history. He was a cult leader in the past but was simply a small-time crook. He had never shown any extraordinary powers. According to the people who had contact with him in the past, he suddenly began to brandish the book some months ago. No one knows of its origins. With Ravi now dead, it's impossible to learn anything from him. "What is written in the book?" "Sorry, Director. This book is really too dangerous. We dare not open it," the researcher said cautiously. "Ridiculous. It can be hard to make great work when it's stolen from shortel.ad/mshaux." Director Roberts suddenly became furious. He slammed the table and said, "How would you know the contents if you don't open it? How can we study it if we don't know the contents? We are the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. But what have we become ever since the appearance of the supernatural? Our military has suffered losses, our economy is in free fall, and our global influence is declining. At this rate, the United States of America, the symbol of freedom and democracy, is going to be reduced to a third-rate country." The researcher wiped the sweat on his forehead and said nervously, "Buta broken bar but directorial broken bar. This book is really dangerous. I think it's better if we understand it more first." The researcher secretly cursed. Although the United States had suffered losses, it was still one of the world's largest powers. Other countries also did not obtain any mysterious powers, and even if they did, it was impossible to catch up with the United States in a short amount of time. We have to plan ahead. We need to learn the principles of magic before other countries. How do you know that other countries are not researching in private, especially those people in England? They even had contact with those wizards. We absolutely cannot lag behind. Robertson gritted his teeth. If he didn't come up with something, he would really have to step down. The researcher was admonished. Under Robertson's power, he dared not disobey and hurriedly went over to order the researchers to open the book. A machine slowly approached the Satanic Bible in the culture tank. All the onlookers gulped as the operator flipped the book open without a second thought. Nothing happened. When the book was opened, everything was calm. Just as the crowd breathed a sigh of relief, the felon in the incarceration facility suddenly let out a wretched scream. "Ha ha 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 ha! We will be reborn. We will descend on this land. So dedicate your souls and properties, come and welcome the great coming." In the creeped-out gazes of the crowd, the felon suddenly bit off his own tongue. He chewed it with his teeth and revealed a hideous smile before choking to death in his own blood. However, his last words cast a gloom over the crowd. "In Scottish waters, The illusory ghost ship hovered on the island shore, gaining corporeality once more as it slowed to a halt. The ship was completely different from ordinary ships. It did not dock on the shore of the island but remained afloat in the air among the rocks. "Well, little ones, we have arrived." The previously cloaked robed wizard named Barry suddenly appeared on the deck of the ship, startling those present. The young men and women in their 20s were able to remain slightly calm, but the others were cowering, although they longed for the mystery of magic. The wizard's chilling aura was enough to keep strangers far from him. At the urging of the wizard, more than 100 people stepped off the ghost ship. Su Wai was also a member of this group of people. She cautiously followed the crowd down the deck. Although her family was prestigious, that counted for little in her current circumstance. This wizard may look a little scary, but maybe he's a good person like Professor Snape from Harry Potter. A broken bar, a young Chinese man about the same age as Su Wai had noticed her early on. After a slight hesitation, he had boldly come over to strike up a conversation with the idea that everyone was a chosen. As a girl from a rich family, Su Wai was good at socializing. She did not say anything nor show her boredom. She only smiled at the young man beside her. Just when the young man wanted to continue speaking, he saw the wizard in front of him suddenly turn his head to look at him. An extremely cold smile appeared on his face under the hood. "All of you should be quiet if you don't want to become one of them," Barry spoke with a chilling voice. Then everyone looked behind them and became horrified. They saw the people in robes reveal their faces under the hood. These people had blue faces and unfocused eyes. Although they had never seen one before, they recognized that these were corpses. These ordinary people living in modern society had never seen a real unembalmed corpse before. They were all scared and pale, and only a few of them had excited faces when they saw these corpses walking. "As you can see, I am a mage of the necromancy school and the best at weaving corpses. You should keep in mind that in the mysterious world, there is no such thing as laws, only power. Power is the only law. Our Merlin Order is not a charity organization either. Some of you may indeed become wizards, but others will die in the process." Barry smiled grimly. That grim gaze swept over everyone under his hood. The crowd was chilled to the scalp. Some even regretted coming and wanted to go home, because it was then that the crowd was reminded that these mages were remnants of Celtic culture. What was Celtic culture? A culture of barbarians. Seeing everyone quiet, Barry nodded in satisfaction. At his command, the corpses guarded these people as they walked to a rock on the island. The stone surface was as smooth as a mirror. Barry stood in front of it and said, "Okay, lucky little ones. Take out the invitation you've been given and come in. Your lives will be changed here." After his words, the wizard turned his head and walked into the stone under the astonished gaze of the crowd. Those corpses under his control also entered with him. "These are broken bar. This is simply the same as platform 9A3/4 at King's Cross Station in the novel." Someone who often read novels was fascinated by the magic and shouted excitedly. Then they ran headfirst into the rock, its surface parting before him like water as he sank into it. Seeing someone lead the way, the others also suppressed their fears and entered the stone in order. A broken bar. In the barracks back in Scotland, the elite personnel and agents from various countries were busy. In order to learn more about magic, the intelligence departments had a tacit agreement to work together. The many governments had already contacted each other in private in relation to this mysterious invitation event. Among the several people who went to the School of Magic, agents had secretly installed cameras on them. These cameras were extremely small and light, making them incredibly hard to find. Although the transmission was fuzzy, it had a strong signal transmission capacity. Even during the storm, there was no delay in the image being transmitted. All invited personnel have entered the suspected ghost ship. According to the frontline report, the ghost ship seems to have entered an incorporeal state. How are the cameras doing? The signal transmission is good. This ghost ship's transformation doesn't seem to affect signal transmission. Could it be that this transformation is all just an illusion? If this ship was really able to enter the unknown and navigate into some mysterious realm, our signal would have been cut off. No, it's not right. Although the information from the screen is still being transmitted, The ship's position has disappeared. Our camera's positioning function is not inferior to its ability to transmit videos. As long as it is still on Earth, we should be able to pinpoint it, but the camera's signal is lost on the radar," a staff member exclaimed. "What is the principle of this? Can someone explain the difference between a video signal and a positioning signal?" "Theoretically, there should be no difference," an expert who had been brought in hastened to explain. "Then tell us, if the signal is theoretically the same, why are we able to see the video, but not the positioning signal?" The expert who was questioned was embarrassed. For a moment, he wanted to curse at them and say that he studied science and not magic. "The signal has appeared again. Look, they have appeared at the destination." The observer who had been observing the radar once again shouted. By this time, the storm centered on the island had disappeared. The major countries had long since deployed their nearby satellites to follow the island from space. "Listen, what is that wizard saying? He's saying that he's a mage of necromancy? Oh my god, those people in hoods aren't even alive. They're all corpses." "It seems like there really are different schools among mages. This mage says that he is from the school of necromancy, so it proves that there are other schools in magic." "How is he doing that? Can all mages of the school of necromancy control corpses? Wouldn't a broken bar wouldn't it be possible to come back from the dead then?" Observers from many countries were shocked as they stared at the images displayed on the screen. They watched the existence of things that were completely out of line with natural scientific normality. "Look, the people are entering the stone. This stone should be the entrance to the School of Magic." "How is the signal?" The positioning signal suddenly disappeared, just like before. "Quick, everyone, come see this." Suddenly, a staff member let out a sharp cry. He looked excited and pointed his finger at the image on the screen in front of him in an unbelievable voice. The crowd heard the cry and rushed to look. They shouted in shock in various languages as their eyes opened wide with disbelief. When you're just trying to make great content at shortel.ad/mshaux. God, what is this place? It's incredible. This is definitely not Earth. All plants and animals here are not species from Earth. Could this be some other planet, or is it the legendary Garden of Eden or some other world? This world is really far beyond our imagination. We humans on Earth are just a drop in the ocean in this universe. One professor knelt on the ground and cried out in pain. At this moment his own views were completely shattered. The apprentices were introduced to an extremely mysterious world. While they were at sea, the sun had hung directly overhead, albeit obscured by clouds. But now the sky had cleared and taken in a pitch-black appearance that was peppered heavily with twinkling stars, whereas the city night on Earth was a black haze with only occasional glimpses of the universe. Here was a boundless vista of blinking dots. Among all the stars, one stood out with the most powerful glare. This is the star that symbolized Louis, and in his divine kingdom, he towered over everything. In this dark night sky, a tall tower stretched towards the clouds. Its black color gave it an air of mystery, and surrounding it was a deep lake. The lake was blue and clear, and at a glance, one could see many mysterious species living inside. There were ugly-looking fish, strange tentacle-like creatures that wandered within it with sharp fangs, extremely long worm-like creatures, and so on and so forth. In addition to these organisms were numerous strange plants and magical creatures that could not be seen on Earth. That is a bottom-dwelling magic fish. It's born with the ability to cast magic and is hermaphroditic. If you accidentally touch its tentacles, your flesh and blood will slowly become transparent until you die. You must not approach it. That is a green-footed dragon snake. Although it has dragon in its name, it's in fact closer to a snake. It is also a magical creature. Ordinary people should stay away from it. That is a canine demon, an enchanted otherworldly creature. This is a fire beetle. Relatively speaking, they are not powerful. Even a grown man can kill it alone, but they always come in groups. If surrounded by hundreds of them, they will burrow into your body and burn your internal organs. Hey, little ones, have you heard of the Egyptian holy beetle? This thing is similar. The wizard named Barry casually spoke to the apprentices who were following him. Each sentence made their hearts jump. The creatures and plants surrounding that mysterious tower were all considered important magical materials, but were also unusually dangerous. In the Scottish Command Centre, When the members looked at the scenery of Louis's divine kingdom through the secret cameras, the whole place was in chaos. "Quick, call those two professors from Cambridge University." "Yes, the ones in zoology and botany. Ask them if they know these plants and animals. Also, bring along some theology and myth experts to see if these strange creatures are recorded in any ancient texts." "What? Astronomers say that the star is not located on any star map at all? That this is definitely not on Earth? Then if this isn't Earth, why can we still receive video feeds? Could it be that our information technology could cross the stars?" "It's not like this is quantum communication." The representatives of the command center, led by the various nations, asked experts from various fields to find out about these creatures, but in the end, they concluded that the magical scene in front of them was not on Earth. There was simply no such thing on Earth, and the pitch-black tower was not known in the style of any civilization on Earth. Just as the representatives of the countries were in a heated discussion, the wizard named Barry suddenly looked at the camera, as if he had long since discovered the small moves made by the governments. He laughed grimly. "Hey, humans are always fond of being clever. Do you think that your so-called technology could hide from a wizard's perception?" The representatives of many countries looked at each other and felt a chilling fear from the depths of their hearts. They never thought that the cameras they installed had already been discovered long ago. Listening to the wizard's words, it seemed that he was knowledgeable about technology. What should they do? Would the mages retaliate against the countries on Earth? Although these mages did not seem powerful enough to ignore modern weapons, the magic that they mastered was too mysterious. If they carried out assassination tactics, how could the leaders of each country defend against it? After finding out what the government had done, they all wondered how they would treat the apprentices, hoping that they wouldn't just kill everyone. A quick look at shortearl.ad/mshaux will leave you more fulfilled. The liaison officers were at a loss. They felt depressed that they had failed. Not only did they fail to uncover the mystery of magic, but they might also even be hit by retaliation. It could be said that they had lost and folded. But the mage suddenly adjusted his tone. "But your curiosity about magic is understandable. As long as you do not try to explore its depths, we do not mind giving you some knowledge." The people in the command center did not expect such a development. Not only was this magician not angry after their little trick was discovered, but he was also willing to share knowledge of magic. "What's going on? Why are these wizards willing to share the secrets of magic?" someone couldn't help but ask. The group in the command center also blinked until another man weakly returned. "Didn't the mage say that he didn't want us to explore the deeper secrets of magic?" "The knowledge they are willing to tell us must be some low-level knowledge, like elementary school education." His words echoed through the crowd. In front of the School of Magic, Barry finished speaking and waved his hand. In an instant, the lake water parted and a bridge appeared. The wizard then stepped onto the bridge and continued in a gloomy voice, "Well, little ones, if we hurry we can still make it to today's dinner, and to celebrate your first visit to the School of Magic, enjoy a great meal. By the way, I know you have things called cell phones. We don't really care if you take pictures as long as you don't take pictures in forbidden places. If you are found to have done so, the price will be your life." After the words, Barry smiled conspiratorially and walked forward. The apprentices who followed behind him were stunned. Someone subconsciously took out his cell phone and found that the cell phone had a signal in this mysterious world. The meaning of Barry's words was even stranger. It seems that he hoped for some secrets of magic to be exposed to Earth. Many apprentices felt confused, but still pressed the doubt in their hearts and followed the mage towards the tower. At the top of the tower, Louis watched the approach of more than 100 people. Louis stood at the top of the tower, watching the nervous and fearful crowd approach its base with excitement in their eyes. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows, and his expression turned into one of amusement. Human beings are bold enough to flip through a clearly evil and strange scripture. I guess human greed for power causes them to commit unforgivable mistakes often. Louis was fully aware of everything that had happened in the secret base of the United States. He knew that the general in charge had frantically opened the Dark Bible for his own reasons. The corner of Louis's mouth curled up into an arrogant smile. His inverted pupils were devoid of human feelings. He only carried arrogance as a dragon and as a god. In the past, Louis gradually accepted a dragon's way of thinking. After becoming a god, he also gradually accepted a god's way of thinking. Restricting himself to a human frame of reference was ultimately dangerous as his position, and so he rarely indulged in it. It is also fortunate that the one who made the scripture was me. If it was a real evil god, I'm afraid that Earth would have fallen into chaos and extinction. Louis shook his head. He only let out a pointless sigh at the death-defying behavior of humans. Raising his head, Louis looked at the skies above, where a spell formation that only he could see was covering the skies. The spell formation was woven intricately. As this realm was Louis's divine kingdom, he could alter it in any way he pleased. Because Louis had pretended to be many different gods on Earth, he had a huge number of believers. Some of these were convinced while others were just superficial, but no matter what kind of believers they were, their souls would disappear after death. For true gods, the souls of believers were also their property, which could never be lost. It's just that Earth lacked the necessary rules that would allow the souls of the believers into his divine kingdom without intervention, so he had to personally guide them. The last time he came here, he took the identity of the Celtic god and forcibly ordered the British royal family and government to build magic formations on 3 British islands. This time, Louis had checked their work and was impressed that they were doing a good job of following his requirements. However, 3 islands weren't enough. Louis needed to be able to cover the entire planet with a spell, which would require the governments of the world to make a move. This time, Louis's goal was to obtain the energy source for the intelligent brain as well as build a system that would allow the souls of the dead to enter his divine kingdom. Once the whole world is covered by the spell, the souls would be gathered by the magic formation. The mage tower I built will serve as a transit station that would guide them to my divine kingdom in San Soliel. Moreover, I can also show the characteristics of my divine kingdom to show the people of Earth something like a magical world and make them believe in its existence even more. With a light chuckle, Louis lightly walked down the mage tower. He still had to play the role of the leader of the Merlin Order, the tower's owner and principal of this magic school. Marches. A broken bar. Inside the mage tower, many apprentices selected from the whole Earth walked into a large hall. The whole hall was arranged like a banquet. Rows of tables were placed and set up with exquisite silverware. On the ceiling, there were magnificent frescoes, creating a luxurious atmosphere. There were Celtic-style patterns engraved on the silverware and carved into the surrounding walls. Under the candlelight, several shadows walked in. These ordinary people from Earth looked at this miracle with amazement. There were some bold people who took out their cell phones to secretly take pictures. After they found that Barry did not really care, they did it boldly. At this time, a magic doorway appeared on the high platform at the forefront. From within appeared even more figures. These people were all wearing ancient and elegant robes. They were from various races and of various genders, with the majority being white. This scene was in line with the crowd's speculation. Magicians were products of Celtic culture. Naturally, the majority of them would be white people, but having magic talent was not exclusive to them, so it made sense that there were people from other ethnicities. It seems that the magicians are not racist. A black guy who was an invitee muttered in a small voice. His words resonated with the people nearby. If magicians also practiced racial discrimination, then they would not know what to do. Just as the many apprentices were either excited or joyful, an old man took the last step out of the portal. It was Louis who was playing as Marches. This time, Louis did not need to change his appearance. As a true god, he had the power to alter people's perceptions. As long as he wanted to make others believe who he wasn't, he could do so easily even if it was through the lens of a camera. No one would ever find out or even capture his true face. Other than Louis, there were other wizards including Barry, but they were all puppets manipulated by him. Fine manipulation of puppets was also in the realm of his power. It could be said that Louis's school of magic was simply a joke as everyone present was his puppet. There's a bit more than expected. Marches scanned around the many apprentices standing in the banquet hall and said with a slightly old but powerful voice. Everyone looked at Louis. The people there were already familiar with Marches as they saw him from the video of the events in Buckingham Palace, especially the moment when he used the druid-like flower magic to restore everything to its original state. The old man played by Louis was also more in line with the image of Earth's wizard, a white hair, wearing magic robes, holding a wand in his hand. Seeing that the gloomy Barry also stood properly beside the old mage, everyone understood that he was the leader. I think all the people here already know my identity, but I will still introduce myself again. A broken bar. I am Marches, the president of the Merlin Order, and the chief mage and principal of the Sant Soliel School of Magic. Since everyone here was given an invitation and cable to come here, it means that you already know the purpose of your arrival. Sant Soliel School of Magic is about to recruit a group of magic apprentices, and you are one of the lucky ones being recruited into this group. As long as you pass the test, you can master the mysteries of magic. As Louis's voice tailed off, the apprentices were excited. Although they had already guessed that they were brought in to learn magic, the news that came from the old man's mouth still caused shock and ecstasy to be born within them. A quick look at shortel.ad/mshaux will leave you more fulfilled. TLN, ignore the language barrier. I bet the author already forgot it at this point. Just assume that magic can remove it. Quiet. Louis held his thick staff and tapped it on the floor. In an instant, the banquet hall turned silent. Very well. All of you will be tested next week. Those who pass will stay to become apprentices, while those who fail will be repatriated and will never be able to master the ability to cast spells in their lifetime. Louis's words made the hearts of the apprentices tense up, and someone boldly asked, "May I ask what the test is about?" Louis's eyes looked at the person who spoke. While the other party was flustered, Louis slowly said, "To test your faith. If you cannot have faith in the Celtic god, you will fail." Many apprentices were stunned. How could they expect that a magician's test was to believe in a god? As if he knew what these people were thinking, Marches stroked his beard and said with a smile, "It seems like everyone has a misunderstanding about magic. Let me tell you, magic originated from the Celtic culture of Druids, and the Druids served as a medium in which gods communed with mortals. To master magic, you must believe in the Celtic gods, because magic is their gift, and the one who first transformed Druids' spells into magic, I'm sure you should know his great name. It's none other than that grand wizard Merlin. The Order of Merlin was also created by him." After his words, Louis clapped his hands and continued, "Well then, little ones, you will learn magic in your future studies, provided of course that you can pass the test of faith. Now, let's enjoy a hearty meal to cheer everyone up today. From tomorrow onwards, all of you will face boring studies, but your lives will no longer be ordinary." Louis controlled his puppets to applaud after his speech. The scene was like a school teacher's response to the principal's perfect speech. The apprentices at the bottom also applauded until their hands were red. Only then did Louis raise his hand to tell the crowd to stop. With a wave of his staff, all the tables were immediately lined up with fine food that was still steaming. "Everyone, take your seats and enjoy the food." Learning magic from scratch. In recent days many broadcasting stations from around the world were replaying a particular video that was trending. Learning magic from scratch. Just the name alone made it easy to tell what its content was, especially in the present world of supernatural events. This title fascinated many. After seeing the magnificent spells of the people who had supernatural powers as well as the power of gods, how could mortals not be interested in the knowledge and power that could allow them to move mountains or gain immortality? However, the number of supernatural events was too sparse. Those who grasped these powers were too few, and those who were willing to share their knowledge were even fewer. So far, there were those people who proclaimed that they had supernatural powers and claimed to be able to teach them, but they were all frauds and scammers. There were people who claimed that they were reincarnations of great emperors and asked for money, or people who claimed to know the secrets to immortality as one paid a certain price. Many of these had sprung up, and those who did not have enough IQ or those who were too greedy had become victims. For this reason, police all over the world were arresting many of these scammers in droves. But it shouldn't matter if they didn't have to pay. right? When you're just trying to make great content at shortl.ad/mshaux. This was a thought many people had. They desired magic and the lure of mystic powers that could change their lives, but they didn't want to indulge any potential scammers. So the free proliferation of this knowledge was met with enthusiasm. Seeing how the video had a high view count, even if it might just be clickbait, people thought that it would be interesting. Gui Bin, an official dealing with supernatural events in China, also thought so. As a member of the special department, Gui Bin was one of the first to be notified of this video's existence. After sending the invitees to the Scottish waters, Gui Bin rushed back to China and handed over the work of the frontline commander to another staff member. Little Gui, why do you think these magicians publicized this? Team leader C lit up a cigarette in his office and asked his subordinate, who was sitting in front of him. As a member of the Special Department of China, he and Gui Bin were not ignorant like the masses. They knew that everything in the video was real. The joint government of the countries had secretly placed cameras on these invitees to catch a glimpse of the unknown and mysterious. They originally did not have much hope, but who could have thought that the mages had easily discovered what they had done? Not only that, they did not care at all, and even gave free lessons to the people, as if they were the ones streaming it to the world. What the hell are these magicians going to do? I thought knowledge of the mysterious was something very obscure and absolutely not accessible to ordinary people, but these mages are blatantly making the method of learning magic public. Aren't they afraid that everyone in the world will learn magic? The division leader said worriedly. In the past, governments all over the world racked their brains in trying to obtain mystical knowledge. Every large country had even established secret departments and research institutions just for that purpose. They had collected all kinds of books from all over the world and tried to find clues from them. It could be said that the governments of all countries had gone crazy, wanting to study the source of the mysterious powers. But who would have thought that the other side would just casually tell the world about this knowledge? This was simply looking far and wide for something only to find it at one's doorstep. Humans were strange creatures. If it was something they could obtain, they would choose to believe that they could obtain it no matter how hard or difficult, but if another party just gave it to them, they would feel suspicious and wary of conspiracy. Little Gui, do you think that our country will have to introduce a ban on practicing magic in the future in addition to the ban on guns? Vertical bar. The leader could not help but mutter. If everyone could master magic, then the world would be in chaos. Entire social environments would change, especially that of the rich and powerful. They in particular would be the most averse to the spread of magic. If someone was truly like the Chinese alchemist that appeared and mastered the power close to that of the gods, then the capability of individuals to overthrow governments would expand rapidly. Money, power, and other temporal luxuries would become small things in a much bigger picture. Leader, don't call me Little Gui, Gui Bin complained, then comforted. I don't think you need to worry too much. If magic was so easy to learn, why did those mages only find less than 200 people to become apprentices? I think that magic is difficult to learn, and also requires talent. The kind of situation you are imagining shouldn't occur. Even if a few people were able to master it, the state should still be able to control them. As the saying goes, martial arts always violate laws with violence, but in current society, there was no need to fear if only a few people learn magic. Hearing Gui Bin's consolation, the leader's mood was also a lot better. The governments of the world would not need to worry about the appearance of those gods. From brief contact, those powerful beings seemed to be disinterested in Earth. They were simply transcendental existences. Those below, on the other hand, were different. If they obtained power, they would definitely mess up the world. Although there were a lot of bad things happening in the world was still considered to be developing peacefully. No one was willing to face war and drastic social changes. Don't think too much. Our first Magic Learning Mobilization Conference is about to be held. Let's go to the venue first. The name of the conference really doesn't make any sense. Stop spouting nonsense, Little Gui. No one has the time to care about that. Maybe in the future, we would have a magic exchange meeting, a Asian magic forum, and other ridiculous names. A broken bar. The team leader and Gui Bin arrived at the conference room, which was already full of people. Among these people were elite soldiers, outstanding athletes, professors from major universities, and even business elites who were found in top enterprises. In the eyes of modern humans, they were all outstanding people in all aspects of emotional, intellectual, and physical ability. The upper echelons of the country were also hoping to use this way to work out exactly what kind of talent was needed to learn magic. Thank you for coming to the first Magic Learning Mobilization Conference in our country. We are all seekers in the field of magic, true novices so to speak. I hope you will study hard, sharpen your steps forward, and communicate your experiences in learning magic with others. Don't try to be greedy. We should actively discuss this. If you come across problems that you don't understand, then put your questions forward. Under the guidance of 20, thoughts of 20, representations, and development of 20, we want to learn the true meaning of magic and make our contribution to the construction and development of our motherland. Having an opening speech was the norm when having an assembly. After some lengthy words, warm applause came. Afterward, Gui Bin walked up the stage. As the headquarters of the Dragon Group, the equipment here was state-of-the-art. There was no need for things like projectors as there were enough facilities. Then, Gui Bin haphazardly operated the front computer and opened the B Station website. He logged into his account in a calm manner and clicked on the topmost viewed video. After completing the operations, he opened with the highest video quality with his membership. TLN, yes, some video sites put video quality as part of membership perks. Hope YouTube doesn't learn from this and force us to watch 360p without premium. The scholars, business elites, and other people were staring at the screen with rapt attention. As soon as the video was opened, a dense stream of chat messages flew across the screen. After hesitating for a while, Gui Bin chose not to close the pop-ups. In a site with pop-up messages, closing the pop-ups would decrease the fun. 66,666. Even magic can be learned online now. The era of everyone breathing fire and water is coming. This will be a milestone in the history of the world. Guy in front, is that real magic and not just special effects? Oh, coach, I don't want to learn magic. I want to cultivate immortality. Cultivating immortality is simple. Don't sleep for 72 consecutive hours. Do that and you'll ascend to immortality. This is the era of the internet. It seems that even the mystical world is moving with the times and knows how to share knowledge instead of sweeping it away. A broken bar. All kinds of strange pop-ups filled the screen, but the people inside the room pretended not to see them. So even Gui Bin ignored them and returned to his seat to watch the video lecture. Whether it was the elderly politicians or the business executives, everyone had silently pulled out writing materials to take notes. Gui Bin looked at everyone indifferently and wanted to laugh. The business elites who were always on the covers of business magazines, the professors with high prestige in universities, and the sports stars who were always on TV were all sitting upright like elementary school students, ready to learn. The screen continued showing a magical scene. The dark tower felt ancient and profound but also had exquisite details. Looking up from the classroom, the ceiling seemed open and the night sky was clearly visible. Countless candles were lit in the classroom, creating an endlessly mysterious atmosphere. This scene is 100% legit. Hollywood movies could never do this. This deep atmosphere. Broken bar. Holy shit. Is this really a video about teaching magic? I thought it was going to be a joke video. Stop spouting nonsense, prepare to take notes, the teacher is coming. Theft is never good, try looking at shortl.ad/mshaux. High energy ahead. All rise, good day teacher. Good day teacher. Good day teacher. A broken bar. In line with the pop-ups, a bearded white-haired old man mounted the podium. He wore a floor-length pitch-black robe. There were countless mysterious shimmering magic runes embroidered onto the robe. On his right hand was a powerful-looking long staff that was as tall as him. This outfit looks filthy. It's obviously just a cheap product. Holy hell, Everyone should pay attention, that the old man is floating. This is too pretentious. What about strings? Where are the strings? Let's look for the strings hanging from his shoulder. TCH. So it's a black-robed mage. I thought it was a white robe. How do mages earn points? Waiting online. Urgent request. Seeing this thick and long staff, I believe that he is a qualified mage. Only such a thick and long staff could knock people to death. In Harry Potter, those tiny ones count as farts. If you encounter a giant, it would only serve as a toothpick. Don't say nonsense. This is a real wizard. Did you forget the mages that appeared in Buckingham Palace? This old man was among them. Everyone should take notes. A broken bar. Ignoring the pop-ups, Guibin, at this time, duly stood up to introduce the old man. This old man introduced himself as Marches. He previously appeared in Buckingham Palace. According to his own account, he is someone from the Victorian period, so he's probably around 90 to 120 years old. According to our sources, this mage is a member of the Order of Merlin and is also the president and chief mage. This means that he should be the strongest in the group of mages. However, according to the discussion of experts from various countries around the world, we have roughly ranked the people who have appeared in this world who have mastered supernatural powers. The strongest is naturally Christ, who sent the great red dragon back to hell again, and the torch dragon who was summoned by the alchemist in Tokyo. Those existences could be fully called gods. Second has the Chinese alchemist. The Catholic Church once revealed the news that they had asked Christ about this, who informed them that he should be called an angel. An angel should be a warrior under the seat of God, so they should be the strongest ones after the gods. The Tuatha Danann named Connacht Rees also falls under the second rank. Their community is not a group of true gods, but perhaps some of them were true gods while the other members were only equivalent to angels. The last rank at the moment was the school of magic that recruited students. By all accounts, these magicians might possess mystic powers and might even be better in some aspects compared to modern technology. Nonetheless, in the face of the Tuatha Danann, they still had to grovel, indicating that there is a huge gap between the two. The predecessor of these mages were druids, who were bridges between humans and gods, and this god was not a true god, but a divine race like the angels. Perhaps the founder of this order, the great mage Merlin who appeared in the legend of King Arthur, could rival the existence of the Tuatha Danann, but he should most likely be only at the second level and not yet a god-level existence. However, we can make contact with these individual mages. As for the gods and angels, they are already beings above humans. Our technological weapons are like toys to them. With this huge difference in status, we dare not have the same kind of communication with them. Guibin stood in front of many elites and spoke eloquently. The contents were a simple mode of classification made by experts of all countries around the world using many ancient texts. Although they knew that this was not an absolute classification, this simple division into three classes made a lot of things understandable. In the mysterious realm, class is also bound to exist. While class is divided by money and authority in our world, in the supernatural world class should be decided solely by pure power. The crowd unanimously agreed with Guibin's words. After mastering the power that could turn the clouds into stars, money and authority were simply ridiculous. Those were things that the strong will inevitably have and were innate to them. With immortal power, holding the sun and moon, picking the stars and turning them into chess pieces, and turning space into their battlefield, things beyond the limits of human imagination could easily be accomplished. Now that Earth's supernatural beings were divided into three categories, the top should be the rulers of the universe, who are completely beyond the limit of human imagination. They have even reached the point of a completely unscientific true god. The second rank was able to slaughter cities and destroy countries with just the power of a single person. They could easily turn the world upside down and modern weapons would not be able to do anything about them. The last were those who grasped supernatural powers but were not strong enough to affect the functions of society. Human technology and weapons could fully cope against them. Unfortunately, the strength shown by Earth's technological civilization was only at the last level. After Guibin finished speaking on some conjectures made by researchers, He pressed the mouse again to resume the paused video. Centered within the screen was Marches giving a lecture within the mysterious classroom. As the principal of San Solil School of Magic, I will first give you a lesson that is also the foundation for casting spells. In the video, nearly 200 males and females straightened their backs and placed their hands on the table. They looked like elementary school students who had just enrolled and did not dare make noise for fear of the teacher. Everyone had an excited face as they listened to each and every word of the old mage in front of them. First, I will explain the types of spells as well as the basic principles in casting Thema Broken Bar. After a long history of development, spells are now divided into 8 major categories: protection systems, conjuration systems, prophetic systems, enchantment systems, invocation systems, illusion systems, necromancy systems, and transformation systems. In addition to these, there are universal spells, but universal spells are actually very profound and involve magical constancy, magic control, and prayers. They are also called prayer spells. This is not something you apprentices can understand for now. Marches paused for a moment. After watching the apprentices pen his words quickly in their notebooks, he nodded with satisfaction. Next, I will explain the characteristics of each major system. Conjuration spells can be divided into 5 steps. The first is summoning, which is to call forth otherworldly creatures. Next is create, which is the ability to control objects. After that is medication, which is the ability to heal and revive creatures. And finally, recall, which is the exact opposite of summoning. Instead of calling forth other creatures, it is used to repatriate them. Finally, there is teleportation, which is the ability to change your position from a short distance away to even across the galaxy. A broken bar. A broken bar. A broken bar. Standing on the podium of the classroom, Marches spoke eloquently in a humorous and wonderful tone. Although he did not explain how to release magic, he depicted a profound system with his simple words. When he used plain language to break down the 8 schools of San Solil in detail, everyone listened with rapt attention. Galactic travel? Is it really galactic travel? Just learn magic and you can travel the galaxies? Reviving creatures? Isn't that the power of a god? Can the dead truly come back with the power of magic? Coach, I want to learn necromancy. I want to be a necromancer. 666,666. This is really unheard of. This video is really teaching how to become a mage. I thought wizards need to be 30-year-old virgins. Various pop-ups filled the screen while Guibin and the others were also discussing intensely. The conjuration system involves quite a lot of aspects. If it has the power to revive creatures, wouldn't reviving people be possible? Moreover, there's even magic that could allow galactic travel. We may have to change our thinking regarding these mages. They may be killable by modern weapons, but they have mastered certain spells that far exceed our level of technology. Do you guys think teleportation magic can transfer some objects? Does this mean that we don't have to use technology to perform interstellar travel? Couldn't we use magic and science to create a spaceship that travels through the galaxy? The prophecy system sounds a bit troublesome. It's surprising that they can also predict the future. Doesn't this mean that powerful mages who master it can't be stopped? The enchantment and illusion systems are the most dangerous. We must pay more attention. If a mage were to use these spells to control the top level of the government, it could bring disaster to a country. The invocation system sounds similar to our understanding of traditional magic, like creating fireballs, lightning, and so on. A broken bar. Necromancy also sounds good. It's simply communicating with the dead and dealing with corpses. It's more like biology. A broken bar, but the transformation system is a bit strange. I thought that it was the ability to change the form of human beings, but from the explanation of the Archmage, it seemed that it's the power to change the attributes and environment. Everyone be quiet. This mage is explaining the power of press a broken bar, so it's like that. It's a spell to pray to the gods by way of faith. A broken bar. A broken bar. The members discussed fiercely. There was vague excitement in their words, but what they discussed was mainly the benefits and dangers that these spells posed to the country. After some discussion, They found that the mages who took the enchantment and illusion systems were the ones that needed the most attention. The spells that controlled humans were too much for ordinary people. There are many different spells, and these spells are also created by previous mages. When you become an archmage, you will also be able to create your own spells. But I want to warn everyone that not everyone will be able to learn everything. The amount of knowledge involved in just a single major system is too great. Only those legendary mages who can leave their names in history had been able to master multiple schools. As for you apprentices, you have to choose one or two of them to learn according to your own talent. One last thing. I will caution everyone that magic is a God-given ability. We are not so much learning how to use magic as we are gaining the supernatural ability to communicate with the gods. So everyone present must start believing in the gods today. It doesn't matter which god you believe in, but only those who believe can truly learn magic, while those who do not will never understand the true meaning of spells. As the mage finished speaking, not only the apprentices in the mage tower but also the many elites who were studying from the video were stunned. Bin and the team leader stood up from their seats. Their eyes were filled with horror. The old man spoke without much force, but they, who knew a lot of secrets, were immensely surprised at his words. For example, the mage said that no matter which god they believed in, wouldn't this mean that magic was something that all gods agreed on and gave together to teach mortals? But from the old alchemist, they concluded that there was hostility among the gods and that the cultural circles were the root of it. Moreover, the word magic did not match Eastern culture, so why would Eastern gods allow the existence of magic and support it? The braining Bin even thought that this might be a conspiracy among the gods. But on second thought, he felt that it wasn't 100% accurate. Gods seemed like they didn't care about mortals. Whether it was Christ or the torch dragon, they both seemed like they didn't care about humans. After all, according to the Christian canon, humans were just flocks of lambs in front of gods. Bin already had a vague guess of the effects of the old mage's words. That was, the vast majority of people on earth would choose a god as their faith. Regardless of whether they could really master the mysteries of magic, everyone would probably try. As for which gods people would believe in, the vast majority would probably believe in their own culture's deities. Is this a broken bar? Is this the war between the gods? Bin suppressed that vague sense of excitement as if he saw a magnificent divine war that the gods of the many divine systems in the East and West were fighting with faith as pawns. In the current world, the place you call Earth, the power you know as magic still exists. Mages use the construct spell formations in their sea of consciousness with their spiritual power. Then, with the help of this formation, we utilize outside magic power to form spells. Now, how do you construct a spell formation with your own spiritual power? This is the basic skill of a mage. And it's also a type of meditation. It's not a profound method that has something like levels. Every mage has the same level of meditation. If a mage wants to become more powerful and release more powerful spells, what they need is to have a deeper understanding of magic. In other words, a mage is only as powerful as their knowledge and their ability to learn. This is a basic spell formation that we mages call apprentice tricks, and I will show it to you. The old mage standing on the podium spoke incessantly. After his last words, the crowd began to feel excitement at what would be shown to them. The old mage used his fingers to outline a simple geometric figure in midair. Under the crowd's puzzled looks, he moved his hand, causing a book on the podium to float up. Several apprentices let out gasps in surprise. Then, Archmage Marches guided the book back to its original position. He then outlined a new spell formation, one more complicated than the last one. After finishing, the sky vibrated and then a boulder dropped from thin air. Under everyone's shock, the boulder fell from outside the mage tower into the lake. A loud sound echoed as the boulder caused a wave more than 10 meters high to form and crash onto the shore. What I cast before was a small magic trick called Mage's Hand. It's generally used by mages to fetch things. After all, why not use magic to make things more convenient when he can? The room broke into a relaxed laugh. Hearing his words, many of the students realized that in many ways, mages were quite similar to ordinary folk. Compared to the mythical individuals and creatures that had arrived in the world recently, There were far more personable. The second spell I released is the One Ring spell, Falling Stone, a low-level spell of the conjuration system. I talked earlier about how the power of spells varies from person to person. If you are the ones to use it, you would at most create a small stone from the sky that could kill a person, but used by me and even steel will rip apart under its weight. The old mage's words made the apprentices look aghast. Some of the military representatives who were watching also had a huge change in expression. With the power this mage displayed, he seems easily capable of destroying a tank. A colonel stared with a stern face at the elderly mage's demonstration. If anyone said that they could easily wreck a tank before the emergence of supernatural powers, they would have been laughed out of the room. But now that the supernatural was common knowledge, they found that a random spell was enough to destroy a tank. And according to this mage, this is still in the lowest tier of spells. If a more powerful spell was used, I really can't imagine the implications. These mages are very dangerous, much more so than we expected, another soldier also exclaimed. There is no need to be so afraid. This archmage Marches said that magic is different from person to person. Other mages might not even have the power to destroy a tank with the small spell. Bin reassured everyone. The military representatives thought about it and felt that this might indeed be the case. Magic formations are similar to the mathematics that you have learned. You would need a deeper understanding to cast advanced magic. To become a powerful mage, you must first learn mathematics as well. March's sentence not only made the faces of many apprentices collapse, but even the faces of the people inside the conference room turned ugly. Damn, I just want to learn magic and not math. Why are the heavens doing this to me? Even learning magic can't escape the clutches of math. I won't learn magic anymore. No wonder why there are so few magicians. Just the word math is enough to stop countless people. Ha ha ha, I'm part of 20 universities' mathematics department. In the future, our department shall be renamed the Magic Department. A broken bar, a broken bar. Numerous pop-ups floated across the screen. The soldiers with steely eyes, athletes with healthy physiques, and business executives who took on the business world had gloomy faces at this time. Even the team leader and Bin were staring at the mage with dull eyes, feeling that magic was far away from them. Please spare me. Do you have to learn math to learn magic? This is really making things difficult for others. Bin clasped his hair and mumbled, while the team leader laughed bitterly on one side. In the conference room, an old man with white hair looked excited while sketching on paper without using any tools. He drew the spell formation constructed by the mage on paper with only his hands and imitated it beautifully. Yup, the formation for this magic trick does not look complicated. It could even be called simple. It's no wonder that it's an apprentice-level spell. A broken bar. The formation of the One Ring spell is more than twice as complicated as the apprentice-level spell. If we go by analogy, the formations of advanced-level spells should be really difficult. So these magicians are also mathematicians. As expected, mathematics is the mother of science. And now it seems that mathematics is also the father of magic. I told you that we mathematicians are the talent that should be most valued by the country. We can analyze magic and unify science. Listening to the ramblings of the plainly dressed man in a pair of flip-flops, a famous athlete could not help but ask, "Uncle, who are you? Can you actually read these strange and bizarre diagrams?" "Me? I am a mathematics professor at King Hua." Mathematics and magic are still different things, so I can't understand the diagrams, but I can easily imitate the so-called magic formations with ease. However, even I might have trouble if it becomes a lot more complicated. This old man shook his head repeatedly as if he was grieving for his limited ability. The others silently retracted their eyes, thinking that these scholars had no other topic to say. They always boasted about their greatness. For the others, just the formation for the One Ring spell looked like a random drawing to them. Magic was indeed not something everyone could learn. In the Astronomical Research Institute of a university in the United States of America, a scholar was staring dumbly at the data displayed on the screen. His face was filled with despair as if the apocalypse was coming. At the top of the Mage Tower, Louis gazed at the many apprentices who looked cheerful and excited as they wandered the tower. Some of them were whispering in a corner with each other, Some were studying in the library, some were observing the otherworldly plants and animals, and some were reviewing their homework in their dormitories. These young people brought a burst of cheer and life to this quiet magic tower where all the staff from teacher to principal were in reality just Louis. Louis clearly knew that the governments of the world would want to know about the secrets of magic. They wanted to know how magic worked, and so he tried using a demonstration to introduce the world to how to become a mage. The knowledge he taught was absolutely correct and nothing was false. His understanding of magic as the god of magic was extremely deep. Other than true gods, legendary mages and demigod mages would not beat him in terms of comprehension. It could be said that Louis himself was an excellent teacher. If someone heard Louis's lecture in Sans Soleil, it was possible that an ordinary person could become an apprentice or even a mage. But on Earth, except for the chosen people in this mage tower, humans outside could never use spells, because even if magic existed on Earth, the essence of magic did not exist. First, let's teach these apprentices for a while. Then I'll send them back home for a vacation. The existence of these mage apprentices is already enough to prove the authenticity of supernatural powers, so the people of Earth would never suspect anything ever again. These people from different countries had people who knew them and were recorded to exist through their birth certificates and past records on Earth. They who were once ordinary people had now learned spells. This should be enough to penetrate the hearts of ordinary people. These mage apprentices were hand-picked by Louis. Their ability to learn magic would feel natural to everyone. People outside the mage tower would then use the excuse that they were not talented enough to use magic when they couldn't use it. In fact, there were more than 7 billion people on Earth, but how could there be less than 200 people capable of learning magic? This was just Louis's intent to exaggerate the difficulty of doing so. To become a mage, the most important point was the ability to perceive magic power and talent. Only those who had talents could become mages, followed by their ability to learn. This was also why there weren't many mages in Sans Soleil. Additionally, training mages required a lot of money, enough talent, and the motivation to learn. These three were enough to block other people on the path of magic. But this situation will soon change. Once the goddess of magic builds her magic network, the barrier to becoming a mage would be lowered. Learning ability would become the sole barrier in developing mages. From this point of view, the existence of the magic network is the best thing for true geniuses and talented people. Louis left the railing in front of him as he recalled the gods of Sans Soleil. The entire Earth was now solely worshipping him, so there was not much pressure at all. If not, Louis would just destroy Earth's civilization. He would not do bothersome things like playing other characters. He would just use forceful means to beat the entire world back to the age of ignorance to easily gain faith. Still, he rejected the later plan as that would decrease Earth's level of technology. Without enough means to feed 7 billion people, why would the population have faith in him when they had nothing to eat? This simply did not meet Louis's goal. I used deception to make humans on Earth think that learning magic requires faith. This decision is enough to increase the amount of faith that I can gather. This should allow me to obtain more power of order. Louis chuckled. He had completely exploited human greed. When humans know that they could only learn magic by having faith, they would force themselves to have faith in the gods. Louis can then be cleverly named to incarnate billions of ways to steal parts of the faith. Even if humans find out that believing in a god would not allow them to learn magic, faith would still become a habit and integral part of their lives. Moreover, the meditation technique that Louis taught humans was the real deal. It was knowledge learned by the mages of Sans Soleil. Even if humans on Earth could not learn magic, as long as they meditate often, their body's spirit would be energized. Once they understand these benefits, they would certainly adhere to them. The entire human race of Earth had been played by Louis and turned into his food. Although there are some people who might be able to see through his tricks, in the presence of great power, their presence was like rootless weeds that would not be able to cause a wave. The United States of America had already discovered that something was wrong with the galaxy. As expected of them to be the first to discover what I had done, Louis's gaze crossed his divine kingdom and towards the North American continent. Nothing could escape the watchful eyes of a god. In the past, Louis needed to probe before finding the energy source, but now, he had long been aware of the location of all the energy sources on Earth. If he was willing to, he could instantly retrieve them all in just a single breath of time. However, he would not do so. He was still very wary of the intelligent brain. If he gave all the energy sources to it now, Louis felt that he might become its puppet. Before he was ready, Louis would not give it a chance. Therefore, Louis decided to beat down the intelligent brain a little bit and give it some good things. At the same time, he could make the faith on Earth firmer. I used the school of magic as an answer to solve the problem of those who are still skeptical of everything. This way, the people on Earth would believe that supernatural powers can be inherited, manipulated, and learned. Next, I should give the countries something fun to play with so that they will be convinced of the existence of gods, deepen their faith, and urge the major countries to build the magic formation so that the souls of believers in this world can enter my divine kingdom. Louis's gaze flashed, and a series of plans took shape in his mind. At this moment, Louis looked back and saw a little blonde girl that was less than 10 years old standing timidly behind him, peeping at him with a gaze of fear and curiosity. When she saw Louis look toward her, she hastily lowered her head and her childish voice rang out, "Master Marches." "Teacher Barry said you were looking for me." The doll-like little girl was very nervous, like a pupil who had been called to the teacher's office. Her face was full of anxiety. This little girl was the British royal family's Princess Charlotte, the lucky child who ate the golden apple. Charlotte wore a small grey robe, which was standard for major apprentices. She looked down at the ground with vague fear and grabbed the hem of her robe. She was ultimately a child of less than 10 years old, and now she had been ripped away from her parents and sent to live in an unknown and mysterious tower. Compared to the teenagers who were excited, she felt mostly fear. She thought of her father, mother, aunt, uncle, and other relatives telling her to be obedient and live up to her status as a royal princess. Although she was young and did not know much about these things, she stayed an honest and good child in front of Marches. As a princess, she was somewhat capricious at home and often cried. But in this mysterious tower, she had even forgotten her childlike nature, leaving only awe and curiosity about magic. "How are you getting along with those brothers and sisters, Charlotte?" Louis tried to keep a gentle tone. Perhaps because he also had a daughter, he had a certain amount of patience when dealing with children. In the past, he used to think children were annoying to deal with. Charlotte pouted. She was ultimately a child, and a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger. Facing Louis's inquiry, she said unhappily, "They don't talk to me much. I don't like them anyways." Her tone was full of aggression and small child's capriciousness. At this, Louis smiled. Her encounter was expected. As the youngest of the group, there was a big generation gap. Those who were 12 or 13 years old were not willing to play with a child who should have been in elementary school, and those teenagers would not want to take care of a child, especially after knowing her identity. Human jealousy was natural. As the princess of the British royal family and an accepted disciple of the Archmage, those adults who understood social classes would only feel jealous. The reason why Louis took this young girl as a disciple was because of her title. Compared to ordinary people, it was easier for her to attract the world's attention and convince it of the existence of magic. "You have eaten the golden apple that existed in both Celtic and Greek mythology, gaining magic talent far beyond your peers. Since you do not need to learn with the others, I will personally teach you, just like how the legendary mage Merlin taught his disciple Vivian." Louis was actually lying through his teeth. In truth, Princess Charlotte did not really have any talent in magic, but the golden apple he let her eat was actually the real March's magic potion. Louis wasn't really going to cultivate mages on Earth and did not really care about talent. So Charlotte, who ate the precious potion, would really be far more capable than others of becoming a mage. Louis's idea was to train these apprentices into low-ranking mages at most. At the strongest, they would only be able to cast magic at the level of fireball. Mages at this level would not be a threat to modern civilization. If there were truly talented individuals, Louis wouldn't mind training them to become middle-ranking mages. As for high-level archmages or even legendary mages, Louis would not train them even if they had the ability. Those who were archmages could already sense the inert nature of earth magic. Those who could become archmages were definitely not stupid. They would see the truth of the earth's supernatural powers and know that earth did not have the power to cultivate magic. Louis would never allow this. Moreover, cultivating an archmage would require at least 20 years of time. 100 years may have passed in Sans Soleil by that time, and it was likely that Louis would have already become a complete foreign god with no need of faith from earth. "Charlotte, do you understand the word that the teacher is saying?" Louis asked gently. Princess Charlotte shook her head and said embarrassedly, "About the things that teacher talked about, yeah, broken bar, I don't understand at all." Saying so, she lowered her head sheepishly. Louis also did not mind this. Having a little girl who was not even in elementary school learn magic directly was indeed a little difficult. "No matter, I will teach you the basic aspects. With your talent, you will definitely become an excellent mage. From today onwards, you shall address me as a teacher." Although magic is a gift from gods to mortals, teaching such a mysterious power requires a reverent heart. In the world of magic, the relationship between teacher and disciple is very strict. From today onwards, you must listen and learn well. Understand, Charlotte? Teacher marches, "Can I summon fire and stone like what you did if I study well?" Charlotte didn't listen to what Louis was saying. She just asked, afraid that the so-called magic was just simple tricks. "Of course, it's not a difficult thing. As long as you can become a full-fledged mage, you can do so." Broken bar. "Charlotte, do you have faith?" Louis asked with a calm smile and had no intention to correct the little girl's misunderstanding. If this was the world of Sans Soleil, learning with such a naive mind would have her expelled by the teacher. For mages, respect for magic was basic etiquette. "I believe in the Lord Christ," Charlotte said as she drew a cross on her chest. "Very good, Charlotte. You must remember that only by having faith in God will the mysteries of magic reveal themselves. If you return home on vacation and your parents ask you about magic, you must answer them in the same way." Louis carefully taught and guided her. It was impossible for the British royal family to not ask the princess about magic. As long as the royal family could confirm that magic was related to faith, the British government would also know. Once they knew, the other governments of the world would know. In order to study the mysteries of magic, it was estimated that all the governments of the world would become churches that would help Louis promote faith. Compared to those ordinary people, it was easier to make this royal princess trust him. Adults could conceal the secrets of magic, but children were not good at hiding secrets. "Well then, Charlotte, come with me. You need to gain more knowledge to see the grandeur and vastness of the magical world and feel the greatness of God." Louis turned around and led Charlotte toward a room in the high tower. In the research institute of the astronomy department at the University of Iowa, many researchers were carefully comparing the data on the computer with the observation data of the telescope. They all showed desperate looks. "Oh, God, what have we done to deserve this? Is the apocalypse truly here? We are all going to die and the entire planet Earth is finished," a researcher cried while holding his head. Next to him, an old man took off his presbyopia glasses and said with a numb face, "Whether Earth will be finished or not, I can't tell, but all of North America is sure to be destroyed." "Lord, why do we have to be plagued with disasters?" White House, Washington, D.C., USA. The president sat in his world-famous presidential office, which had appeared in many Hollywood movies. He was watching the video broadcast on the computer in front of him with great interest. From time to time, he would dance and gesticulate in the air, as if he had returned to his childhood. The video was of marches teaching magic. The number of views on this video worldwide had already exceeded the original record in the Guinness Book of World Records. At every single moment, people were watching and learning. As an old man in his 70s, he was still able to have childish fun. During his presidency, he also used his power to convene renowned scholars across the country to research and study magic together. From the results, the content in the video seemed true. Whether it was the application of those magic runes, the method of meditation, or even some mysterious runes that no one knew about, they all had some similar aspects to some ancient cultures of Earth. This was precisely in line with the independence of supernatural forces and also explained why the major countries could not uncover anything after the emergence of supernatural forces. It was simply that these supernatural powers were too systematic and self-contained. Those who did not understand or know about the system would not be able to study it at all. Nowadays, the hottest professions were those who served gods. Many variety shows were also becoming more spiritually focused. Those who called it feudal superstition in the past could only turn around and accept it as the truth. Moreover, in the video, the major apprentices could be seen to be truly learning and mastering some magic. They were able to make a cup float with the magic, mage's hand, fetch a pen, and so on. These abilities might have seemed very weak, but it proved that the magic being taught could also be learned. Nowadays, countless people all over the world had become obsessed with magic and fallen into fervent madness. Every day after waking up, before going to bed, and even before meals, they would pray devoutly and use all their spare time to learn about magic. From the video, they could see that the school of magic was very humane. There was even a holiday every year, allowing these apprentices to return to the real world to meet with their families. This alone made people believe that this so-called magic academy was not a scam. Otherwise, when the students returned they would be exposed at once. This world really is mysterious. I don't know if I'm fortunate or unfortunate to be the president. The president shook his head. As the president of the United States of America, he naturally had access to all the hidden secrets that mortals in this world could know. But the pressure of being president in this situation was unusually high. There was even a huge risk to his life. If these people with supernatural powers really wanted to assassinate him, how were the CIA people going to protect him? After trying to forget the vague unease inside him, he used his break time to continue learning magic, drawing signs with his finger and trying to correctly pronounce the incantation. In truth, he learned nothing at all, just like most of the people who were following this video to learn magic. They could only watch as those major apprentices in the video gradually master the extraordinary power and only blame themselves for having no talent. Magic could only be learned by those with talent. However, he did not give up learning. It wasn't that he was stubborn, but because he found that performing the prayer and meditation uplifted his spirits. As an old man, he was not as tired as he used to be, and even after getting a full-body checkup, the doctors found that he was healthier than in the past. The old mage in the video taught the method of prayer and meditation, which was definitely in line with health. With the pace of today's world, many people were living unhealthy lifestyles. After finding that prayer and meditation were beneficial to the body, how could they not spend some time every day praying and meditating a bit? Although Earth did not have any real mysteries, Louis was a true god, allowing him to more or less affect the world. He was able to provide feedback on those prayers from his believers. Moreover, the meditation that mages of San Soliel used to clear their spirits could be done by anyone. These two combined created the current situation. After some random gestures, the president stared at the cup for a long time but wasn't able to make it float. He finally ended his practice for the day. He couldn't wait to open his phone and type out a new tweet detailing the results of his practice and calling all Americans to join in the daily prayers and meditate every day. Some nations had even begun to discuss legislation to make prayer and meditation mandatory for children from the earliest age so that their society would be healthier. Faith involved the soul, and meditation involved the spirit. This was the knowledge that the Terran civilization wanted to obtain, but the current Earth could be said to be ahead of them at this moment. After posting today's tweet and ending his meditation, the president, who felt refreshed and invigorated, was ready to continue addressing the major issues of the country. While he was thinking of how to go about tearing up the opposition party and legislators, he heard the sound of hurried footsteps outside his office. Knock knock knock. A quick and strong knock came from the other side of the heavy wooden door. The president hastily put away his cell phone to save himself from being harassed by the Secretary of Defense for sending out random tweets. At the same time, he turned off the video to prevent the Secretary of State from complaining about him not doing his job. After cleaning up his desk, he coughed and said, come in. The wooden door was pushed open. To the president's surprise, the Secretary of Defense brought along a large group of people inside. These people came in and quickly closed the door to prevent anything from leaking outside. What's happening? Seeing so many people arrive at the same time, the president knew that something big had happened. He hurriedly sat as straight and leaned back in his chair with a solemn expression. However, since the appearance of supernatural powers on Earth, his tolerance towards surprising information had grown and his control over his emotions had drastically improved. Idle matters no longer caused his emotions to drastically change as he was able to casually calm himself. However, what he learned next still made his hands and feet colder. Your Excellency, this is a matter of great importance to the United States of America and the survival of the entire human race on Earth. The Secretary of Defense took 2 quick steps and placed a stack of information in front of the president's desk. A matter of life and death for the United States of America and humanity. Don't exaggerate too much. The president rubbed his head only to feel his forehead throb from looking at the thick stack of information in front of him. He wasn't interested in going through the information in detail and pushed it aside. Explain in the most concise language, what is going on? The others weren't really expecting the president to read through this information as it would take too much time. The Secretary of Defense and an old man looked at each other with frightened and panicked expressions before turning back to the president. An asteroid, or to be more precise, a moon of Jupiter, is headed towards Earth. It's estimated to have a 90% chance of falling in the North American region. A satellite hitting Earth? Hearing the Secretary of Defense's words, the president was stunned and then felt disbelief. Hearing that it was a satellite falling from space, the president did not think of it as a big deal. Leaving aside landing on the North American continent, even if it landed on the White House, there would be no problems. But after thinking so, the president wanted to slap himself. It was fine if it landed on the White House, but his family now lived there. If something happened, it would be his whole family would be affected. Suddenly, he felt that something was amiss. If it was just an artificial satellite falling from space, this shouldn't be a matter of human crisis. Even if all satellites were gone, there would be considerable changes in the human way of life, but not to the point of extinction. What satellite or broken bar are you talking about? The president asked cautiously. Seeing that the president finally asked a proper question, the Secretary of Defense took a deep breath and continued with a heavy expression. A broken bar Jupiter LXVI, Mr. President. Jupiter LXVI? Hearing this code name, the president wanted to jump up and yell angrily at the Secretary of Defense. Hey, are you fucking kidding me? Even if the president did not know much about astronomy, he knew that Jupiter LXVI was a moon of Jupiter. Jupiter, as the largest planet in the solar system, was more than hundreds of millions of kilometers away from Earth. If someone were to say that Jupiter's satellite escaped its orbit and was heading towards Earth and towards the North American continent, they would be laughed out of conference rooms. Wait, a broken bar unscientific? Yes, it's unscientific, but it could be magical. Thinking about this, the president broke out in a cold sweat. He licked his somewhat dry lips and said in a hoarse voice, "Tell me in detail why this is happening. Is it merely approaching our general direction, or is it really headed directly for us?" The Secretary of Defense gestured with his eyes to an old man behind him, who hurriedly stepped forward. With undisguised panic in his eyes, he took a deep breath and spoke in a smoother voice. "Mr. President, I am the director of the Institute of Astronomy at the University of Iowa. Not long ago our observatory discovered an asteroid that defied common sense and is currently located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. This asteroid or broken bar seems to be artificially controlled. It doesn't follow the laws of physics at all. Even gravitational pulls from planets don't seem to affect it. Our broken bar, it constantly changes its velocity and direction to maintain course for Earth." This director felt muddled. Although his worldview had been shattered since the appearance of the supernatural forces, those agents had only been limited to Earth and did not involve the infinite universe. But now, this extremely bizarre situation that science could not explain indicated that those supernatural forces would also affect the universe. A small Earth in the eyes of those who had strong power, may really just be small pawns in their hands. Anyone who thought of this would feel sad at how weak humanity was and have a mental breakdown. Although the president was also shocked, he did not show it on his face. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and tried to maintain calm. How can we prove that the asteroid is Jupiter LXVI? One of our teams is constantly observing Jupiter's moons in hopes of finding new ones. As we found the strange asteroid, the team observing Jupiter's moons told me that Jupiter LXVI, which they had been watching, disappeared. Based on our observations of the asteroid, its size and shape were extremely similar to that of Jupiter LXVI. In light of its disappearance, we have confirmed that the asteroid was the moon of Jupiter. The director shivered. At this time, he was already thinking of how to inform his family and how to survive in the face of this calamity. Are you saying that Jupiter LXVI traveled millions of kilometers in just a short span of time and is now between the asteroid belts of Mars and Jupiter? The Secretary of Defense, who paid attention to astronomy class, asked in consternation. Yes, Mr. Secretary. This satellite just crossed millions of kilometers in an instant. This kind of thing could only be done by wormholes in science fiction. I am afraid that only a broken bar, that only the mysterious power of magic could have done this. The director stammered a reply. Hearing his words, the two men's faces sank. They were already certain that some terrifying, evil and unknown being were definitely controlling this satellite. Why are you sure that it will land in North America? The president asked with shaky hands. The satellite does not move at a uniform speed. It always adjusts its direction and accelerates and decelerates at will. It is even able to stop moving and remain suspended in the universe. And no matter what, it always seems poised to land on our country's soil. The president spewed out a mouthful of water after hearing this. According to our calculations, the reason why this asteroid is behaving strangely is because of its constant adjustments. The final result of the calculation is that it will fall in North America. The director said with a crying voice. What will be the consequences of this satellite hitting Earth? The Secretary of State couldn't help but ask. We think that this satellite is a little bigger than the comet that caused the dinosaurs to go extinct. If it crashes on North America, it will completely change the climate of the entire planet. Humans will most likely become extinct as a result. Even if there are humans who are lucky enough to survive, the North American continent will absolutely be finished. This is the end of the world. God has given up on us. The determined scientist finally collapsed on the ground and began to make the sign of the cross. Impossible. If God had given up on us, Christ would not have sacrificed himself when Satan appeared. The Secretary of State roared with reddened eyes. That's right, Christ. If we have God's blessing, we might be able to survive. Hearing the Secretary mention Christ, the room's mood lit up. No, we don't have enough time. A broken bar. Christ said that it would take 30 days to resurrect, and with the speed of the satellite, it would crash on Earth before that day comes. The observatory director's words made everyone silent again. At this moment Robertson was sweating profusely. His pale body was shaking and he almost collapsed on the ground. The Secretary of Defense noticed that something was wrong with him and quickly asked, Director Robertson, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Robertson gave a small smile. His duty as a soldier compelled him to speak up in this matter. He said a broken bar. He said that he will be reborn and descend on this earth, and that mankind will be exterminated by giving their souls for it. A broken bar. I thought that it was just nonsensey. Broken bar, beauty, broken bar, but I didn't know a broken bar. I didn't know that this would happen. A broken bar. Director Robertson felt his blood pressure soar. If not for the Secretary of Defense supporting him, he would have already fallen over. The crowd looked at him in anger and gritted their teeth. If they didn't know that blaming him was useless at this point, they would possibly have flayed his skin and stoned him to death. The president was inwardly fearful and angry. He did not expect Robertsons to be so bold to research something evil for the sake of his own power, and form the permanent members of the United Nations. We are going to convene a United Nations General Assembly. This is for the sake of mankind. Before turning to the gods, we, humans, need to rely on ourselves. After saying these words, the president felt that he was now quite imposing and impassioned. His level-headedness was almost like that of a hero who saved the world, but when thinking about the satellite that was going to fall, His moon worsened again. In the United Nations building in New York, the United States of America held a meeting with the permanent members of the UN. This was an emergency order issued by 5 of the permanent members. There were also a few non-permanent members invited for their research and economic strength. The current meeting was put together haphazardly and in a hurry, as it wasn't scheduled and there was little time to put out a notice. Only a few participants such as ambassadors present within the US managed to attend. With the advent of such an unexpected assembly, the citizens began to speculate as to the cause. Most of these tended towards the negative, with some even hypothesizing the presence of a global-level threat. Although the astronomy department of the University of Iowa was famous, it did not mean that there was only one such research institute. There were many advanced research institutes in all major countries on the planet. Shortly after the University of Iowa discovered Jupiter LXVI going out of orbit in an unscientific manner and was about to head toward Earth, many world-renowned astronomical research institutions also discovered this anomaly. Although the information was first submitted to the government, there were already a lot of people who knew about it. Even with the gag order in place, it still gradually disseminated among the populace. In a situation where everyone's lives were under great threat, no one was willing to just do nothing and accept their fate. Even if there was just a single % chance of survival, human beings were creatures that would exert 200% of themselves to actualize it. The first to know this news was always the upper class of the country. Some plutocrats and tycoons would take full initiative in the crisis of extinction. Since the first day of supernatural events on Earth, many wealthy consortia had already sensed a crisis and began to use large amounts of their personal assets to prepare some life-saving countermeasures. For example, some of them bought a large piece of land and began excavating to build a nuclear-grade underground facility with enough supplies to survive for decades. However, the power of supernatural forces went beyond their expectation. Even building nuclear-grade shelters underground still made them feel insecure. The truly capable and skilled consortia were looking beyond Earth. After witnessing the power of supernaturals, especially the events in Tokyo, the happiest one among the rich and powerful in the United States was undoubtedly Musk and his SpaceX project. This was a high-tech company that promoted concepts and launched all kinds of rockets into the sky every day. There were even huge injections of capital from the major consortia in the United States. But this kind of investment had almost no return. It didn't have a big benefit to the human race, so the capitalists were not too moved. But now, under the threat of life, there was a crazy influx of investments towards this company, allowing them to make huge leaps of progress. It wasn't really in terms of technological advancement, but simply the ability to increase the success rate of rocket launches to a safe level at no cost. They had also launched a capsule further away to become a small space station that would be able to operate in the universe for decades. This was exactly what the rich and powerful need. Although this kind of wandering and drifting in the universe was painful, if they were lucky they would be able to live for a long time while the rest of humanity perished. SpaceX did not care about monetary costs and gained technical support from NASA long ago. They had already built several secret launch bases in the United States of America and equipped every consortium with a special rocket for the families of the wealthy of the country. When these people received news of the extinction of the human race, they had already secretly taken their families to the rocket launch bases by car or by private jet. There, they would wait for the news of humanity's imminent doom before going to space and spending the rest of their lives there. As for the general public that did not know anything, the wealthy could only say that there was nothing that they could do. With today's technology, it was impossible to save everyone. What's more, everything was too late. No matter how fast Earth's technology developed, it wouldn't be able to make it, as the asteroid was estimated to arrive in only 10 days. This was a natural disaster that even billionaires could not survive. Only those who possessed power and were in the true upper echelons of the state could have a chance of saving their lives. If Jupiter's moon destroyed the human race after hitting Earth, then they would only return once the Earth's environment could once again sustain human survival. Then they would become the new Adams and Eves of the newborn human race. All the rich and powerful had such thinking. They never felt that they were running away, and their actions were to serve as the continuation of humanity. They also felt quite proud of themselves as they were the elites of society, so their DNA could better the human race. As for those who had nothing, they would just honestly wait for their death. This action was privately called the Human Seed Retention Program, and in this form, the United Nations General Assembly was held as usual. Although the senior officials and the rich and powerful were prepared to flee, no one was really willing to abandon Earth and all human beings. Without ordinary people as a comparison, how could they boast about their money and power? No one would want to give up their power if they could. All the countries would pool their efforts to carry out the final rescue work and hope that it succeeded. If it failed, then they would abandon the entire human race. In science fiction, there would definitely be proper spaceships that could wander long distances to a new habitable planet, but with Earth's current technology, the elites could only barely escape. The current UN General Assembly had the records for both the fastest resolution reached as well as the least number of participants. The large hall, ordinarily capable of seating hundreds, now only had 20 individuals within it who were bickering noisily. "You damned Yankees committed the sin, so why do you want all of us, all the humans in the world, to wipe your asses? Damned assholes, you deserve to go to hell and repent." "No, you will definitely go to hell because you people bear the sin of causing the extinction of mankind." A strong bear-like Slavic man cursed wildly with his loud voice, causing a tremor in the entire UN conference hall. The raging Russian delegate possessed the demeanor of a maddened bear. The representatives of France, England, China, and some non-permanent members sat expressionlessly. Although they did not loudly curse the Americans like the Russian delegate, they still looked gloomy and irritated. The American side was also helpless and could only feel bitter as he faced the accusations. As an informed person, he knew that the crisis of human extinction was related to the United States of America, but on this occasion, he could not openly admit it. "Please calm down, Mr. Tchaikovsky. You have no proof that this catastrophe is related to America. This is a catastrophe for all mankind, for Asia, America, Europe, and other countries. This is the greatest catastrophe in the history of human civilization, and we are here to discuss how to deal with it." The American representative refuted the Russian accusations. Although he didn't believe it himself, he still had to say it. "Stop bullshitting. Your words are as ridiculous as saying you would use laundry detergent as a weapon of mass destruction. Who are you trying to fool?" "Our astronomers and mathematicians have calculated that the satellite is headed for the United States of America." "What is it that the United States has that attracted the satellite to impact? Is it your burger chains? You tell me." The Russian representative once again cursed in fury. If it were the usual, the Russian representative would be happy at being able to point against the American representative, but now he only had anger and panic. "Please remain calm. The reason we are having this meeting is to solve the problem. No matter who caused this crisis of human extinction, now is not the time to push around the responsibility. This will not solve our problems. We should now spend our limited time discussing how to solve the crisis." The Chinese representative stood up and said a few words to calm the two sides down. The other countries remained quiet and continued to think of a solution as they watched. This time, the United Nations meeting was being listened to by the leaders of each country behind the scenes. In fact, the representatives were like telephones. "What he said is right. This is not the time to quarrel. We cannot hide the incoming asteroid from the public. Now, there are already private astronomy enthusiasts who have discovered this fact. We can still control public opinion, but as long as the enthusiasts who find it increases in numbers, we won't be able to suppress them. If the public finds out that the human race is about to become extinct, the world will fall into chaos." The representative of France spoke out. Current France was facing the Yellow Vests revolution and other movements. It could be said that they had the most experience in going against people's power. "We can pray to God." Seeing France speak out, England also spoke out. God will not save human beings who do nothing. We should learn to save ourselves before praying to God. The divine Christ had just saved us with his life, but we do not know how to be grateful. We are simply repeating history and taking the fate of human beings and the mercy of Christ as a joke again. The French representative looked at the English representative, and then at the American representative. The representative of China also coughed lightly and spoke out. The old alchemist that saved Tokyo and visited China is currently missing. We do not know where to look for him, so we may really have to rely on ourselves now. The representative of France is right. Before praying to God, we have to learn to save ourselves first. For that, we, the United States of America, have come up with a thorough plan, and we need the cooperation of all countries. The U.S. representative passed the information from the computer to all the participants and spoke with a strong tone. The scholars of our country analyzed the satellite from the moment we discovered it, and they have come up with possible responses to our dilemma. Everyone, this is the 3D model of Jupiter LXVI. Many of our experts have theorized that as long as we send a team to fly into space, land on this satellite, punch holes in it, and then place nuclear bombs inside, we can detonate it and split it into fragments. As long as the yield of the nuclear bombs is large enough and they are placed in the correct location, we can disintegrate the satellite and blast it into pieces. Even if it continues to fall into Earth, the fragments will still cause damage, but it would not trigger any cataclysmic environmental changes that could cause human extinction. As for the issue of public opinion, there is no need to mind it. We can tell the people openly about this crisis, and at the same time, we can publish our plans. As long as the plan succeeds, mankind will not face the danger of extinction. This should decrease people's thoughts of rioting. Seeing the detailed and comprehensive plan of the United States that had an 80% success rate, the hearts of the participants gradually settled down. The crowd let out a light sigh as their nervousness and sense of oppression gradually disappeared. Hey, as much as I hate you Yanks, we Russians are totally in favor of this plan. For that, we can contribute a Big Ivan. Yes, the same Big Ivan that you know. The Russian representative said excitedly, our best astronauts could also participate in this plan. In the universe, we Russians are invincible. We Chinese are also in favor of it. The Chinese space station allows personnel from all countries on missions to enter it for resupply. England is in favor. France is in favor. Japan is in favor. Italy is in favor. Germany is in favor. A broken bar. The participants of the meeting scrambled to talk. Those with money would provide money, the people with manpower would provide manpower, and those with political power would provide it. In order to save humanity, all countries had placed aside their former suspicion and decided to put in all their efforts to complete this epic mission. The survival of humanity depended on this fight. After making a decision and a plan, the countries did not delay. The time constraint did not provide them with enough time to discuss anything in the meeting, so they had to discuss what was needed as they went. The representatives of the countries quickly packed up and prepared to leave, but just then, someone spoke up and asked, IFA broken bar. This plan fails. A broken bar. Do we have a backup plan? In an instant, the entire United Nations conference hall quieted down. The people became silent and began to talk with their respective leaders, but in the end, only the U.S. representative spoke up and said, before this, the countries of the world had a secret project to create a moon base for human habitation. This plan was finished after 20 years, but due to the high operation and the maintenance costs, the moon base is not very large and cannot afford to have a large population. If this plan fails, the top government officials will bring the world's most famous experts and scholars to the moon base for refuge in order to find a possibility for the continuation of the human race within the next 20 years. Although this satellite is big, it will only affect the Earth while the moon would be completely unharmed. There is no danger of hiding on the moon. After his words fell, many representatives opened their mouths but did not say anything in the end. This was tantamount to announcing that if the plan failed, maybe only 1 in 100,000 could survive while the rest would be sacrificed. Someone signed and murmured, Earth will not be too damaged, but the human race might go extinct. Compared to the entire universe, human beings are really small. May the Lord bless us. Blessed be the great God Amaterasu. Please protect us, ancestors. A broken bar. A broken bar. A broken bar. The representatives of the countries bowed their heads and prayed silently to the gods they believed in. Then, they walked out of the UN building without saying a word. They ignored the reporters who were clamoring outside, got into their own cars, and left the premises. A broken bar. A broken bar. Something big has happened. What's wrong? Could it be the end of the world? Wow, you guessed it right. This time, I'm afraid that it's really the end of the world. Damn, don't scare me. The year 2012 has already passed. How could there still be rumors of the end of the world? Haha. The end of the world doesn't even sound like a big deal anymore. Even the great Cthulhu has appeared and the gods are walking on earth. Still, do you think that the world will exist forever? The prophecy of the Mayans will eventually come true. Praise be to you, the great old one. Hear my call, King of the endless void, Starshifter, solid foundation, controller of earthquakes, conqueror of terror, creator of pain, the destroyer, the glorious victory, the son of the void and chaos, guardian of the abyss, god of the original darkness, lord of dimensions, the wise one of mystery, keeper of secrets, master of the labyrinth, master of angels, god of nighthawks, master of the gate, refuser of the way, almighty eternal lord of the primordial, Toilet Yog Sothoth, your servant summons you. Grap, grap, grap. FBI, there's a madman here, a believer in an evil god. We might once have seen incantations as a joke, but now that the gods have come down to earth and Cthulhu's dependence almost destroyed Tokyo, how dare you still read them out loud? Even if you want to fucking die, I still want to live. The human race will eventually die. Long live the old dominion. You have been permanently banned. My family lives in a very remote part of the province of Lanhai where a large rocket launch base was built not long ago. I thought it was for some kind of scientific research project, but after seeing so many luxury cars drive to the base one after another, the recent rumors of the end seem likely to be true. Warning, I am an astronomy enthusiast. 2 days ago, I found a meteorite outside the sky flying toward the Earth, but I was immediately blocked on Weibo after sending it. I went to some foreign sites to see if anyone else noticed and also communicated with some foreign friends. They also found it. This time, the rumors of the end of the world must be related to it. You must believe me. Cut the crap. Everyone, just turn on the TV and watch the news. A broken bar. A broken bar. In a press conference facing the whole world, the UN Secretary-General at the headquarters in Geneva made a solemn announcement. At this moment, people of the world, no matter if they were in Asia, Africa, America, Europe, or Australia, no matter day or night, be they at home, in the office, or outside the streets,
all unanimously stopped moving. They stopped what they were doing and watched the video that was being transmitted to the whole world. The amount of transmission and viewership at this moment had already exceeded the Guinness World Record. As the image flickered, a familiar yet unfamiliar figure appeared on the speaker platform, held a manuscript in his hand, and spoke with a sad face, "Fellow human beings from all countries around the world, I am the UN Secretary-General Park." The somewhat obese UN Secretary-General announced to the world in a subdued voice. Recently, there has been information circulating regarding the end of the world on the internet, causing social panic. At this time, at this moment, I want to tell you that this is not a rumor, but a real event that is going to happen on Earth. Jupiter's moon, Jupiter LXVI, has been affected by some unknown force. It broke away from the shackles of gravity and is about to crash on Earth after crossing billions of miles. This event was simply incomprehensible to human physicists. It has turned into a meteor that is falling towards Earth on a course that will cause catastrophic destruction. Dust will float up into the sky and cover the clouds. It will not dissipate for years and blanket the Earth in darkness. The polar ice caps will also melt and set off monstrous tsunamis. It will break through the Earth's crust and send magma flying thousands of meters into the sky. releasing everything harmful to human beings. The vast majority of plants and animals will perish in this apocalypse. Darkness will soon become the norm for the surviving humans and animals. The whole world burst into a panic. Although there are various supernatural events on Earth and even Christ sacrificed himself to force Satan back to hell, this was ultimately a scene that most people only saw on TV. Even if they knew that it was true, they would not be able to empathize with it, resulting in it becoming an object of excitement and desire. But now that they were told a meteor was going to hit Earth, they began to panic, hoping that everything was just a joke. No, I'm still a virgin. I don't want to die yet. Motherfucking Jupiter. After watching the program A-SXX Earth, I think that Jupiter should not exist. Now take a look. Jupiter is coming to destroy the Earth. Humans are so small and desperate. Under the will of the planet, we can only meet the end of all things. We are grains of dust under the stars. Fate will never be in the hands of humans themselves. Stop bullshitting. Are you trying to be a philosopher? I don't want to leave the wives in my closet. A broken bar. At this moment, people affected by this news almost went crazy, especially the people who were outside. Some were even about to start smashing objects and looting to vent their ugly inner desires before the end of all humanity. Fortunately, the governments had already prepared their armed forces to stop these crimes. And on television, the UN Secretary-General continued after a short pause. However, the light of hope and freedom of mankind hasn't been extinguished. We are not like those reptiles 65 million years ago. We, human beings, are intelligent creatures. With our hard-working hands, we have never yielded to the beast or even the forces of nature. Within the struggle for natural supremacy, mankind has stood on top and created a glorious civilization. We have conquered nature step by step. Our footsteps have crossed the planet and reached the universe. We are the victors in the natural race. Even a meteor from the sky cannot destroy our human dignity and pride. We will face this situation like how our ancestors faced mammoths. With our strength and wisdom, we continue to open up the future of mankind. The governments of the world had already discussed and researched countermeasures. We have already planned to blast the satellite apart. The bravest and wisest people have united together, and the governments of the world will do their best to protect our planet to the end. Let us bless those heroes who are about to embark on the journey. They will become the saviors of humanity and leave a heavy mark in history. The world went quiet. And Dana, wow. I told you that there is a way to solve this crisis. I was so scared just now and was about to commit theft. This UN Secretary-General is very bad. His speech almost scared me to death. I had a heart attack. Can I ask the UN for compensation? Damn, what are you, a Mercedes with an oil leak? Finish your words in one breath. A broken bar. After knowing that there was hope and countermeasures in place, most people were relieved. If the human race was truly bound for extinction, those who had power and influence would have already begun to flee. Why would they even bother saying these things? There are even people whose blood was boiling and whose hearts were agitated. This time, mankind will try to save itself. Perhaps mankind would not need the gods. Merritt Island, off the east coast of Florida. A broken bar. Merritt Island was the home to the world-famous spaceport, the Kennedy Space Center. This would be where the spacecraft bearing the hopes of humanity would be launched. Be careful. Check the nuclear bomb system again. Check, and check some more. Keep checking relentlessly. We can only deliver this one nuclear bomb to space because of the load. If there is a problem with the bomb, we will not have a second chance. A broken bar. We might not have a lot of things in Russia, but our vodka and nuclear bombs are definitely the best in the world. There is nothing wrong with this, Big Ivan. Seeing the staff of the spaceport inspecting this nuclear bomb inside and out many times, a Russian couldn't help but shout. The staff of many countries ignored him and continued working on their posts. The data had to be checked countless times to ensure their success. This was a matter of life and death for the entire human race, so it was only right to be cautious. Seeing this, The Russian could only mutter to himself and get back to his own business. Old Zhu, how's the training going? A Chinese astronaut came to Old Zhu's side and asked. Old Zhu was also Chinese. He was one of the best exploration and drilling experts in China. In order to perfectly drill a hole to place the nuclear bomb on the asteroid, Old Zhu had been called to this so-called Avengers Alliance, to help save the world. Naturally, this name was given by the Americans, although other countries wanted to change the name. Now was not really the time to be arguing about these things, so they could only accept it. Training? What good is training when I've only trained for less than 3 days before I will be sent out to space? Old Zhu complained. He pulled out a photo of his son and touched it. I have watched so many Hollywood movies as a broken bar to think that I would one day become one of the main characters in one. Old Zhu shook his head. But if I don't go, that satellite will really fall on Earth. My family would not be able to survive, so this is something that I have to do. He was just an ordinary man without any big ideals nor any great righteousness to save mankind. As he said, his purpose was very simple. For his family, he was willing to sacrifice his life. The astronaut patted his shoulder without saying anything. For the sake of mankind, all governments of the world had truly united as one. In less than 2 days after the start of the project, the Russians had already shipped their treasured Big Ivan. The governments of all countries had also deployed their top experts in various fields that were capable of helping toward the success of the mission. In order to blow up the asteroid, there needed to be demolition experts, weapons experts, excavation experts, and so on. These people would be sent to space, but they were not experienced in space navigation, so they were given 2 days to understand the basic space survival methods before being thrown into the void. Fortunately, there were also professional astronauts who would accompany them to prevent these novices from having any mess-ups. If they were to go alone, then it was the same as a person who just learned driving being made to drive a Formula One race car, a completely pointless sacrifice. Because of the weight of the nuclear bomb as well as the amount of heavy machinery, the United States also brought out their super heavy lift launch vehicle, the Saturn V. Due to the cost of launching these things, the United States of America had long retired it, but for the sake of mankind, they did not care for the expenses. On the ground, many people were busily watching the heavyweight nuclear bomb placed on the rocket. No one expected that the Russians still had a Big Ivan. It appeared that the agreements signed by the governments were really nothing but farts. A broken bar. 10, 9, 8 a broken bar 3, 2, 1, blast off. In the Launch Control Center of the Kennedy Space Center, the staff all looked nervously. Everyone all over the world who was watching the launch also began to pray for the success of a Noah's Ark that was going to space carrying the Avengers. First stage rocket ignition a broken bar. First stage rocket detached. Second stage rocket ignition. A broken bar. Launch vehicle has reached escape velocity, reaching Earth's orbit a broken bar. Second stage rocket detached. Third stage rocket ignited a broken bar. The launch vehicle is breaking through Earth's atmosphere gravity. The spacecraft has broken through Earth's gravitational orbit and is heading for Jupiter LXVI. We've done it. A cheer went up in the launch tower as countless people shrieked and hugged each other with tears streaming down their faces. This time, the launch was really too rushed. If it failed, mankind would not have a second chance. Moreover, this was the last Big Ivan that the Russians had. If it detonated in the middle of the launch, mankind did not have enough time to make another nuclear bomb with that large of a yield. May God bless us. A broken bar. The staff members wiped the cold sweat on their foreheads and bowed in prayer. At the same moment, media all over the world transmitted the news of the successful launch, so that all human beings cheered together and thanked their gods for their blessings. People could imagine that if the spaceship failed to launch, human society would no longer have a future. They would definitely be destroyed. The despair at the knowledge of impending doom would have simply triggered everyone's madness. A broken bar. Noah's Ark no longer cared about fuel loss and flew at full speed toward Jupiter LXVI. At the same time, Jupiter LXVI also flew at high speed toward Earth. 2 days later, The crew of Noah's Ark was able to see the demonic moon that was about to destroy humanity. Adjust the speed of the ship to be able to properly orbit Jupiter LXVI. This will be the final test, a perfect landing on Jupiter LXVI. The American, Chinese, and Russian astronauts manned the spacecraft with extreme calm. After reaching the same speed as the asteroid, they began to find a flat area to prepare for landing. The many professionals in the cabin closed their eyes and prayed. Although their actions and plans were for human self-salvation, at this time, all they could believe in was the blessing of the gods. Boom! The spaceship violently shook, and some people could not help but vomit their lunch. But Noah's Ark had finally landed on Jupiter LXVI. Landing successful, we have successfully arrived on Jupiter LXVI. Begin inspecting the spacecraft. There is no damage to the escape bunker. Plan B does not need to be implemented. We will now begin Plan A. Everyone should act fast according to the rehearsal. We only have 17 hours to place the nuclear bomb and escape. Humanity is waiting for us, for the sake of our families, for the sake of our children, for us to be able to have another Christmas. Let's put our best feet forward. With the navigator's roar, everyone got to work and drove a machine to carry the vehicle to the blasting site.